Chapter 6280. Chapter 6280. Go to Datang instead. He looked at Jiang Shang. There is also the corpse of the Long Princess on the ground. He didn't even look at it. At this moment, Yuan Cheng's eyes were very complicated. After looking at Jiang Shang for a while, he said, "His Majesty. The assassin you mentioned, shouldn't it be me?" Jiang Shang looked at Yuan Cheng kneeling on one knee, and she knew that Jianggua's general situation had long since disappeared. It can be seen from today's plan. The prime ministers have rebelled. You must know that the army of Langshan County that resisted the Yu Kingdom was personally appointed by the prime minister. Now even her close official, Li Mi, is dead. Really lonely. This Jianggua has no nostalgia anymore. Yuan Cheng, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly raised his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang. "It's the dazzling general." He was dazzled, but Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang's eyes were fine. Now there are thousands of elite forbidden troops gathered outside the hall, and as long as an order is given, they can use the reason of arresting assassins to step down the hall. This is a proper rebellion. Originally, Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang were about to go out, but after hearing this, they couldn't help but pause. Jiang Shang is the same. She has been an emperor for a few years anyway, and it is impossible for her to understand everything. She had also spied on the wolf ambitions of Xianggua, but she could not suppress it. Originally, there was Li Mi to help her, but now that Li Mi is also dead, Xianggua completely holds the power and directly forces the palace. But Yuan Cheng let go at this time, turned around and left. Jiang Shang was a little surprised, but he didn't speak. Walking to Yuan City in front of the threshold, he stopped again and said indifferently, "It's windy tonight, Your Majesty, be careful." After he finished speaking, he walked out of the hall. The ban also withdrew. Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang breathed a sigh of relief. "Let's go." Jiang Shang sat on the dragon chair in a slightly decadent manner, but after all, he failed to protect the great cause of Jianggua. Such a decisive decision also made Jian Wushuang very happy. If they stay in Jiang country all the time, it is not suitable for them to practice. Jiang Shang took the initiative to leave, which is naturally the best. "Wait a minute." Jian Wushuang licked his lips and walked towards the flower demon that turned into blood. Under the opponent's red shirt, there is this dark green token. There is a string of ancient texts on it, and Jian Wushuang frowned the moment he saw the text. Xiang Yang leaned up at this time and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just an ancient token. Let's go first." Jian Wushuang took the token, looked up at Jiang Shang and said, "Where are we going?" "Dong to Datang." There was a look of longing in Jiang Shang's eyes. Jian Wushuang once told her that the place where Wanlu totem was found was in the East China Sea. Before her mother left, she also mentioned don't. For the past few days, she has been thinking about when to go to the eastern land Tang dynasty. Whether it is because of his own cultivation, or to find his mother. She should go there. Hear the destination. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed and nodded quickly. "Okay, I'll prepare now." To go to Datang, it is natural to go by boat. Now they can't fly in the sky. Jiang Shang raised his hand and said firmly, "No need to prepare, let's go together." She has made up her mind to abandon Jianggua. Or maybe Jianggua abandoned her. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Xianggua Yuwendu personally threw the army in the city to clean up all dissidents, and came to the palace to make peace with himself. "Cheng'a, can the little emperor take it?" Yuan Cheng knelt down on one knee and said unreservedly, "I am a minister of your majesty, but I have the heart of a minister to take it upon himself." "Kindness." Yuwendu was immediately furious when he heard this and said, "Do you know what you're talking about?" He knew that his son had been unrequited love since Jiang Shang was his daughter. He didn't expect that it would thwart his plan. After snorting coldly, Yuwendu threw his soldiers to the harem in person. But at this time, Jiang Shang and Jian Wushuang had already left the city. All the way east. Along the canal all the way to Shijiaku. There were several days of running around in between. When they arrived at Shijiaku, the treasure ship that entered the sea was ready. Standing on the bow, Jian Wushuang did not disembark to say goodbye. "I just wrote 2 letters and gave them to Wang Luan and Tai Mian Liangchen respectively. In the past few days, The whole Jiang country has been in chaos. The sky in the royal city changed overnight. Xianghua Yuwendu found someone to impersonate Jiang Shang, and then remotely controlled the entire court. It's a pity that Langshan County can't stand it anymore. King Xiaoyang defeated the army of Langshan County. Now only the coastal guards are left on the right, but they can't move. This is because of the news of Jian Wushuang. There is no need to resist anymore. Although he wants to leave, he will not harm those people. It is best if you can vote for a good future. Even if you cannot vote for a good future, if you retreat to Binhai County and rely on the canal, your life will not be too bad. Explain these things. Jian Wushuang personally drove the treasure boat and rushed into the sea with Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang. The footsteps have surpassed the mundane behind. It can be regarded as 1 foot into the realm of self-cultivation. Months later, on the dark blue sea, a treasure ship 100 meters high was slowly sailing. There were originally only 3 people on the treasure ship, but at this time there were hundreds of boatmen. They were in good order, and while the weather was fine, they were washing the deck. Others cook, fish, and sail below deck. The 3 Jian Wushuang had not been on deck for a month. On the deck at this time, there is a middle-aged man with 1 ear, who is directing several new crew members to wash the deck. Be quick with your hands and feet, don't think that I saved you. I was kind enough to tell you that before the boat docks, your lives are all mine, so you can do whatever you want and stop chatting with me. This person is 1 ear. He is wearing a cool vest, sitting on the high platform of the deck, drinking tea leisurely, watching the boatmen work below. Before going to sea, Jian Wushuang didn't want to wear 1 ear. But this guy is a stalker and wants to follow. He thought that Jian Wushuang was going to run away, but it was not. A month after going to sea, he found that the ship had poor food and no gold and silver treasures. Only then did he realize that he was with the wrong person. The 3 Jian Wushuang were unable to retreat. He was a mortal to eat. Still sailing. After eating fish for a month, you can see an island, go up to buy fresh water and food, and recruit a group of crew members, and then you can be considered stable. Later, a group of crew members of the sunken ship were rescued at sea, and the days of gradually improved. Some even like this kind of life. Just when he was at ease, the guy on the deck suddenly threw away the rag, pointed to the sea and said, "Look, we are in Datang, Pat." 1 ear put down the teacup and stood up too. In the distance of the sea, a continuous coastline has already appeared in front of us. There, the Tang dynasty. 1 ear was blurred for a moment, and immediately rushed from the deck to the cabin. Jian Wushuang had said before that when the Tang dynasty arrived, he reminded the 3 of them as soon as possible. He rushed into the cabin, reached the bottom 3 secret rooms with 1 ear, and slammed the door hard. "Master, we are in Datang. 4229/108-35515. Chapter 6281. Chapter 6281. Shanghai County, Datang, the most beautiful in the North Sea. This is the famous Shanghai County. In the Tang dynasty, as the name suggests, there are mountains and seas. The county town is in the middle of the mountain, while the sea is outside the mountain. So the entire coastline is mostly deserted. There are only a few small piers here and there. It was also established by a nearby fishing village. However, one of the piers has become hot due to the recent turmoil in the 7 southern countries. It even attracted many dignitaries in the county town to come. Because the merchant ships from the 7 men's kingdoms all carried a large amount of gold and silver jewelry, but these things were always troublesome, and when they went to a place where they were unfamiliar with the Tang dynasty, they would cause trouble even more. Therefore, as soon as the merchant ships landed, they would sell some inconvenient treasures to those powerful figures in the Tang dynasty at a low price, and the other party would also be responsible for their safety and bring all the people on the merchant ship to the county seat. It's kind of a black box deal. The place for trading is also picking up leaks, right next to the dock. Countless treasures were transported from the merchant ships, and most of them were sold at a low price. Except for the ready-made gold and silver that could be used, the rest would be sold to those dignitaries in the county and city, and even the ships were sold. There are also some merchants, along with their maids, who sold them to those powerful people. Anyway, after changing the banknotes from Datang, I can still buy some little maids locally. Usually, this kind of business is also traded by those playboys. Near the south of the pier is a military town. After the transaction, officers and soldiers will personally these fallen ministers who claim to be envoys of the southern country. One-stop trades are common, but such lucrative trades are rare. As soon as the merchant ships docked, a group of people would come up to negotiate business. At this moment, next to the dock, a group of guys were busy unloading various boxes from a merchant ship. There are naturally some treasures that are inconvenient to carry, such as calligraphy and painting, antiques, tea, silk. In fact, the Tang dynasty did not lack this kind of thing at all. The picture is just a cheap one. Buy it and sell it. Little girl, please make way. In the hot team, there was also a young girl in sackcloth. She also didn't dislike the smell of sweat on those porters. She had been standing on the deck of the pier, looking at the plain Wu Bo Sea as if waiting for someone. When others spoke to her, they did not answer, but silently owed their bodies. Her appearance was very abrupt in the crowd. But no one finds it strange, because she has been at this pier for 3 years, standing on the deck of the pier almost every day. Her eyes are always looking at the sea. So everyone in the neighborhood knows her. Even when these people pass by, they will joke, "Azzy, I'm still waiting for your little husband. I advise you not to wait. That kid must have found another girl in Taiyan City. You should go home quickly. Go, what do you know, this is called unrequited love." A few porters joked about you asking a question. The young girl named Azzy didn't care at all, and didn't refute it. But in the bottom of her heart, she was certain that that person would definitely come back. And will marry her. So she doesn't care what others say. Otherwise, it will not be a 3-year wait. In others' eyes, she is stupid. But no one knew that that person was kind to her back then. So she is willing to wait. Even if the sea is dry and the rocks are rotten. At this moment, a huge horn sounded from the sea. It was from a merchant ship that was about to dock. Signal to approach the pier. After the horn sounded, the dock side naturally had to respond. I saw the guy on the watchtower shouting at the bottom, "Come on, it's a treasure ship of the 7 southern countries, at least 70 feet long. My God, this ship is definitely a big man." This shout directly attracted the dignitaries and dudes in Shanghai County. One looked at the sea with his head hooked, and saw the huge treasure ship. Everyone is excited and gearing up, waiting for the ship to dock, to discuss a big deal. It's all silver. After a while, the ship docked, but unfortunately the deck of the treasure ship was too high, so only a ladder could be put down. The following people from all walks of life are looking forward to it. But the one who waited was an old man in rags who looked worse than a beggar on the side of the road. The boatman was also confused when he got down. He was from the 7th South, and he had never been to the Tang dynasty. He thought that the Tang people were very hospitable. No malice. "I can see you." A person on the deck hung his head and looked down. It was the ear that followed Jian Wushuang. He glanced at the people on the pier, turned his head and said to Jian Wushuang flatteringly, "Master, why don't you just leave here? I don't think these people have any bad intentions, but they are still very hospitable. Go down and see." Jian Wushuang waved his hand, signaling the person with one ear to go down first. Then he looked at Xiang Yang and Jiang Shang behind him. The 3 have been closed. Now they have reached the great perfection. Jiang Shang, in particular, was just a ray away from condensing the golden elixir. This is all because of his earnest teaching. In the previous life, her teacher was Hui Qing, but this time it was Jian Wushuang's turn to teach. If Jiang Shang regained his memory and became Jiang Shang in the future, I don't know what to think. After dropping one ear, I talked to some local people and then returned to the deck to report, "Master, it's clear that this is Shanghai County in Datong, and it's far from Taiyan City." Jian Wushuang said indifferently, "Then let's fix it here for a few days first." Before he came, he figured out the map of Datong. Shanghai County is still far from Taiyan City in Datong, at least 10,000 miles away. It would take more than a month to travel by land, and the fatigue of traveling would greatly affect their cultivation. It is very convenient to take the sea route. At that time, you only need to change to a smaller merchant ship and enter the inland along the canal. Therefore, Jian Wushuang felt that there were a few people staying in the local area, and by the way, he could inquire about the Tang dynasty. He knew very little about this Peak dynasty. All I know is that there are 36 counties in the north and south. Humanity flourishes. The surrounding mortal dynasties highly respected the Tang dynasty. I don't know about the rest, especially about the cultivators. Everyone got off the boat together, and the merchants who came to do business knew that there was no treasure on their boat. They all left angrily. Among them, the extremely playful children have their eyes on the business of this treasure ship. Such huge treasure ships are rare even in the Tang dynasty. Although Shanhai County is close to the sea, it is located in a remote area, and no one has the ability to build such a large treasure ship. Now that I see this somewhat damaged treasure ship, I want to buy it from Jian Wushou. Although Jian Wushuang had this intention, he did not rush to make a move, let one ear send those people away, and then walk towards the town by the pier. There is a man on board who is in charge of guarding, so there is nothing to worry about. Chapter 6282. Chapter 6282. I go to the front to explore the way, kindness. Jian Wushuang did not take a few steps, and suddenly frowned. He turned to look at the girl in linen on the deck, and just glanced at it, his eyes narrowed slightly. A strange breath seemed to appear on the girl. But in an instant, it disappeared again. The breath was not familiar to him, but it was related to his mind power. Since he embarked on the path of cultivation, his mind power has opened up. Now it is possible to detect everything within 10 miles around, especially the sensitivity to breath. Just now, he felt a sense of oppression from the girl. It's a wonderful feeling. At the beginning, many people gave him this sense of oppression, so it was both familiar and unfamiliar. The familiar is the feeling, the unfamiliar is the breath. But after he glanced at the other party's appearance and the investigation of his mind power, the breath disappeared again. That's weird. Seeing that he was standing still, one ear also followed his gaze to the girl in linen, and his eyes twitched. What's wrong? Jiang Shang was a little curious. Jian Wushuang shook his head and said silently, "It's nothing, it's just that I haven't been on land for a long time, I'm not used to it, let's find a place to stay first." "Okay, I'll go ahead and explore the way," one ear said and ran towards the town. When Jian Wushuang and the others arrived in the town, one ear had already arranged the room. Jian Wushuang was very satisfied with this. When he entered the room, he nodded deeply to him. This makes one ear more sure of its inner guess. After Jian Wushuang was settled, he returned to the pier with a few of his men. Jian Wushuang entered the room to wash up. Xiang Yang was invited to chat with him about his cultivation experience. Closed for over a month. Now they have all condensed their breath into their dantian, and it is imminent to condense the golden core. But if you want to condense Jindan, in addition to simple retreat and practice, you also need the assistance of treasures. French and financial partners are indispensable. They have the method of cultivation, the money can be robbed, the Taoist does not need it for the time being, the land is very important. Even if they have experience in cultivation, they can't stop the place with strong breath. Xiang Yang took a moment to gather and said, "The Leiyin Temple in the Tang dynasty is a treasure. It is rumored that Shangxin often appears, and it is estimated that it is a cultivator of the Jindan period. As for this auxiliary treasure, we have to go to the first floor of the Tang dynasty to inquire about it." The first floor in the world. It is not a restaurant, but an organization that gathers information from all over the world. Even Shangxian often haunts this place. Therefore, many mortals who dream of stepping into the world of self-cultivation are longing for the Tang dynasty, longing for the first floor in the world, and seeking the immortal gate. Jian Wushuang is the same with them. I once heard my mother say that outside Taiyan City in the Tang dynasty, there is a Baoguang temple dedicated to a true immortal. Jian Wushuang was taken aback by Jiang Shang's words. He really didn't know this, so he gestured to Xiang Yang with his eyes, but Xiang Yang didn't talk about it either, obviously he didn't know. Jian Wushuang coughed dryly, and said indifferently, "There is such a thing, you know, in this Tang dynasty, Shangxin frequently appears, and there are still some immortals who are willing to stay in the world, such as the great monk in Leiyin Temple." Senior know that true immortal? Jiang Shang became interested when he heard this. Jian Wushuang, who also came to Datong for the first time, knew the so-called true immortal, and could only vaguely say that he had heard of it a few times. After chatting with the two for a while, the three of them returned to their rooms. Jian Wushuang began to think about their own interests. Now he can follow Jiang Shang's lead, and he has to assist the opponent to become as super strong. And there is this potential. All it takes is his guidance. Then the first is to enter the realm of self-cultivation. Now they are at most loose cultivators, and they can't become a big climate. Going to Tian City in Datong has become the most important thing at the moment. Jian Wushuang was thinking about the matter of the Tang dynasty, and just wanted to find an ear and ask him to inquire about the situation of Tian City, and then there is no need to discredit it. But before he could find an ear, the other party covered his eyes and came to the door himself. How is this going? Jian Wushuang stared at one ear in surprise. The opponent's head was swollen into a pig's head. If it weren't for Jian Wushuang's ability to detect the breath now, he wouldn't be able to recognize it. Covering his left eye with one ear, he said, "You don't know, I just returned to the pier and saw a few playboys bullying a weak woman, so I stepped forward to stop them." Who would have thought that the group would directly confront the villain? Punching and kicking almost killed me. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly and looked at one ear thoughtfully. Who is one ear, who is so exquisite, how could he do such a stupid thing, and he was beaten in vain? There must be some other things in there that cannot be said. He didn't care about this, so he asked directly, "Is that the girl who was on the dock earlier?" That's right." One ear nodded frequently. Jian Wushuang sighed and said, "Okay, you don't need to worry about this matter, find a boss to bandage the wound, we can't stop here for a few days." After dismissing one ear, he closed the door, walked to the windowsill, and looked at the pier. Although it is a few hundred meters away, after arriving at Xiantian, the eyes and ears are completely new, and even things that are thousands of meters away can be seen clearly. There is indeed a problem. Jian Wushuang fixed his eyes. It's not about bullying men and women. It's the breath that fluctuates back and forth. That breath was hidden in the woman. Or the breath of contamination. Does not belong to that woman. Previously, the reason why he stayed was a little suspicious, but he was worried that the other party was related to the local cultivators. He didn't want to hit the opponent's attention. But now seeing a group of vulgar playboys, they can bully this woman arbitrarily. It is estimated that there is no cultivator behind the other party, and she is really a mortal woman with better luck. It is also the luck of Jian Wushuang, met such a noble person. He immediately left the room and stopped the ear that had not gone far. "Wait a minute, call your people and come with me to meet those gangsters." Jian Wushuang's words irritated one ear, and he responded immediately, called a few good players, and was ready to go back to the scene. Jiang Shang didn't know about this, but Xiang Yang, who was a good person, also followed. The group went straight to the pier. Originally, Jian Wushuang was going to go alone, but now the woman is being entangled. If he went alone and beaten so many people, it would make people suspicious. It is better to take the opportunity to be beaten in one ear, to find trouble with the other party, and rescue an ignorant girl by the way. Even if there are cultivators behind the other party, they will not be able to find any problems. When he came to the dock, Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and one ear stood up immediately, but before he could say anything he heard the other side scoff. 4229/10862685. Chapter 6283. Chapter 6283. A letter. "Oh, you lack of ears, you really can't understand words, right? Let you get lost." The elder brother who was at the head had to pull the ear of one ear when he stepped forward. This time there were so many people that one ear wouldn't be caught without a hand, so he kicked the other side with his foot and directly knocked the other side to the ground. "Before there were many of you, I really thought Grandpa was easy to bully." After scolding one ear and mouth, he added 2 feet. Seeing this, the rest of the young masters wanted to take action, but were stopped by several boatmen. Seeing that Jian Wushuang is so powerful, the boy who was kicked over is also very interesting. He got up and patted the soil on his body. He raised his head and said, Okay, now that you have a lot of people, just wait for me. Wait, just wait, whoever doesn't come, who's the grandson? Not to be outdone in one ear. Poor they. That was a very rebellious role in Jianghua, and he could be bullied by a local snake. It's a pity that they didn't think that Qianlong would not suppress the snake. Jian Wushuang also seemed to have forgotten this sentence, so he didn't take the threat seriously, so he made a big mistake later. Drive away the gangsters. The girl in linen who was molested hurriedly bowed to thank Jian Wushuang and the others. It's easy, you don't have to be so polite. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and then asked, Is the girl a local? Well, the little girl lives in the fishing village to the east. The girl in linen lowered her head and replied in a low voice. Jian Wushuang heard the words and asked curiously, Then you must be waiting for your family's fishing boat here. But do you know the route around here? Is there a route to Tian City? After saying this, he felt a little regretful. No matter how he looked at it, the other party was a weak woman who had never seen the world. How could he know the route? But what he didn't expect was that the other party really knew. Especially when they heard that they were going to Tian City, their eyes were full of yearning. Just like the eyes of those who yearn for the Tang dynasty in Jianghua. Are you going to Tian City? If you go by sea, you need to bypass Dongshan Island and enter the inland canal, which takes almost a month. The woman in my skillfully said the route to Tian City, as if she had calculated it countless times in her mind. Jian Wushuang paused for a moment and said truthfully, Well, thank you girl for telling me. Take some silver in one ear to thank the girl. Seeing this, One Ear directly took out 2 silver ingots from his arms, a total of 20 taels, which was a huge sum of money for ordinary fishermen. But the sackclothed woman shied away again and said, No, no, no. I don't want money, I just want to invite a few benefactors to Tian City to help me inquire about a person. If you find him, just bring a word. Oh! Jian Wushuang's eyes moved, and he thought to himself that the other party was really not easy. Maybe that person had something to do with the breath on her body, so she agreed immediately. No problem, the girl just needs to tell me his residence and name. The woman in linen said awkwardly, I don't know where he lives, only his name, but he should be very famous, and everyone in Tian City may know him. This sentence amused Xiang Yang and said with a smile, Girl, Tian City has a population of tens of millions. Will you let the whole city know who you are so sure of? Could it be that he is Emperor Tang? Everyone laughed when they heard this. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but glared at everyone. That shut them up. Millions of people? The woman in linen was a little dazed. Maybe she doesn't even know how many millions of people are and what it means. But he still defended, if not all, half of the people should know him. What's his name? Jian Wushuang's eyes were hot. Qin Yuan. His name is Qin Yuan, and he is a scholar. If you can meet him, help me deliver this letter to him. After the girl in linen finished speaking, she took out an envelope wrapped in sesame oil paper from her cuff. Jian Wushuang reached out and took it. The moment he touched it, he could see the contents of the envelope. He was speechless for a while, but also curious and surprised. Okay, I went to Tian City, I will help you hand over the letter to him. Thank you so much then. The woman in linen bowed deeply to everyone. After saying goodbye to everyone, she returned to the dock deck, looking at the calm sea alone. It's just that all the things on the merchant ship have been moved, and the dock is empty. The sun sets, and the sea is like a sea of fire. A lonely figure stood in it, very desolate. Jian Wushuang just glanced at it, and then took someone back to the restaurant. When he returned to the restaurant, he did not disturb Jiang Shang or tell Xiang Yang, but left the restaurant alone while taking advantage of the darkness. In the dark night, Jian Wushuang's figure was like a ghost. Although he couldn't walk in the sky, he took a step of 3 feet, and his speed was extremely fast. You haven't gone back yet? He looked at the figure on the pier, a little surprised, why he was still staying there. 2 hours have passed since they left. Could it be true love? Forget it, I'll go take a look alone. Jian Wushuang originally wanted to follow the girl in linen to visit the fishing village where the other party lived. Maybe you can find the source of the breath. The fishing village is not far from the wharf, only 3 or 5 miles away. Jian Wushuang arrived at the fishing village in less than a stick of incense. At night in the village, the lonely lights are hard to see. It seemed very quiet. Even the wild dogs in the village did not bark. Jian Wushuang walked on the silent street. His thoughts were wide open, and he carefully searched every corner in the vicinity. When he came to a small courtyard where he was picking up leeks, he stopped. In this yard, there is the breath of the sackclothed woman. This should be her residence. But there was no one at this time. The gate of the yard was just a fence made of several wooden boards, and he jumped into the yard. Although the yard is relatively leaky, it is very clean. Breathe in the well? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he paced to the well in the yard. When he came closer, the breath was still looming, just like the breath of a woman in sackcloth. He looked down at the bottom of the well. Is no different from an ordinary well. It's dark, and you can't see what's in the water. But that breath is looming, sometimes strong, sometimes low. Just like the ripples on the water. Looks like we have to go down and have a look. Anyway, there was no one in the yard, and the girl in linen probably wouldn't come back for a while. Even if she came back, it would be fine. And just a mortal, there is no threat to him. Roll over and go down. He supported his body with his feet and fell down step by step. The wellhead is not big, but the further down you go, the bigger the diameter. So that Jian Wushuang could no longer support his body with his legs, so he could only stick to the stone wall, clasping the gap with his fingers, and groping down with difficulty. Chapter 6284. Chapter 6284 Left Guardian? After finally reaching the surface of the water, the breath suddenly disappeared. He was a little unwilling and immediately jumped into the water. Only then did he realize that the space at the water surface was larger, more like an underground lake, and the wellhead above was just a cover. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and dived directly into the water. Although the water is pitch dark, with the power of thought, you can still observe everything around you. The water was very clear, and he continued to dive, and he could feel the silence around him, not even the sound of water flowing. But such clear water is not like stagnant water. And after he entered the bottom of the water, he never found that breath again. Could it be that that breath is a living creature? Very likely. Maybe some kind of mountain spirit. This place is close to the sea, and there are many spirits in the sea. But logically speaking, this place is close to the mundane world, and those spirits rarely come ashore. Just when he was surprised, the breath suddenly appeared again. Before Jian Wushuang was happy, he felt a shock in the water, and a huge stone fell off the stone wall and was hitting his position. It really is a living thing. Jian Wushuang stomped his footsteps and left the place directly, dodging to avoid the falling boulder. The bottom of the water also became turbid in an instant, but it was a pity that Jian Wushuang did not rely on his eyes, but locked the opponent with his thoughts. An image suddenly appeared in my mind. It was a huge jellyfish, and every time it stretched and stretched its body, the breath became stronger and weaker. That's why sometimes he can feel it, and sometimes he can't. The problem is not with the jellyfish itself, but with what it hosts. Jian's hands were fast. He caught the opponent's position and rushed over in an instant. Instead of using a weapon, he grabbed the jellyfish's twitching tentacles with both hands and dragged it in front of him. At close range, he could see the thing on the other side clearly. No wonder I actually swallowed this thing. Jian Wushuang crushed the huge head of the jellyfish and took out a coral. There is also this strong spiritual energy above. Baby, this is the soul of the sea. In fact, the body of the jellyfish is this coral. At this time, if the carrier is lost, the coral becomes a dead thing, but the aura above it can help Jian Wushuang. With this coral, it is enough for him and Xiang Yang and others to become immortals, which is the Jindan period. I didn't expect such good luck this time. It seems that Datong is really my blessed land. After finding the source of the breath, he didn't need to stay under the water any longer, so he was ready to leave. But when he just surfaced, he heard loud footsteps. Apparently it came from above. After a while, there was a light of fire. Someone came to this small courtyard with a torch. Jian Wushuang's thought force moved, and immediately dived into the bottom of the water. There are cultivators? And it's still coming here. He was able to discover the aura on the sackclothed woman, and I am afraid that other practitioners would also be able to discover it. Of course, the other party is much higher than his realm. At least it is also a cultivator of Jindan period. As soon as his thought power moved, he sensed a powerful aura, and right above it he was definitely a cultivator of the golden core stage. Fortunately, his response was very fast, his mind power wrapped his body, and he was in the water again, suppressing his breath to a minimum. Along with the coral, he was carefully protecting it. At this time in the small courtyard, a group of mysterious people wearing black soft armor is wanton searching every corner of the yard. One of the old men, standing in the center of the yard, even used his mind power to explore the surroundings. He has a pair of triangular eyes and a sharp aquiline nose. Expand the area, check it out for me within a radius of 3 miles, take everyone from this place to me, and ask carefully. Yes. The group of people wearing black soft armor are all experts in the congenital stage, and their speed is extremely fast. In an hour, everyone in the fishing village was gathered together, and the house was swallowed up by the fire. The pier in the distance was very quiet, and no one dared to take a look. Guardians, I've searched everything, but I still can't find it. A terrified man in black reported. The triangular-eyed old man looked calm, stretched out his skeleton-like claws, pinched a pair of iron balls, and said sternly, "It's too late. Just turn around and leave." The black-armored people also followed. As for the people in the fishing village, they all fell weak and did not make a sound at this moment. This group of black-armored people came quickly and walked quickly. No one even knows where they came from. But Jian Wushuang, who was lurking at the bottom of the well, heard the words, "Zwahufa." A person who can be called a Dharma protector is definitely a non-human organization, and the other party is likely to be from a certain sect or sect. Jian Wushuang also became extra careful, and waited until the sky was bright before crawling out of the well. When he climbed out of the well, it was raining heavily outside. Burnt-out houses were extinguished and turned into coke. Jian Wushuang walked in the mud, and the rain under his feet was still bloody. The smell of blood is extremely strong. When he arrived at the entrance of the fishing village, he saw the fishermen who were killed. They died silently, but they all had a blood hole the size of a bowl in their chests. "Is your heart gone?" Jian Wushuang glanced at the miserable situation and could only sigh helplessly. He did not expect to encounter such a thing just after arriving in Datong. The practitioners who came yesterday not only came to find the coral, but also stole the hearts of the whole village. This is proper magic. Walk. Jian Wushuang has only one thought now, so hurry up and leave. If those people haven't gone far and come back at that time, it will be troublesome. At present, his strength is still unacceptable to those people. Back at the inn, I took off my soaked clothes, and just changed into relatively dry clothes when there was a knock on the door. "Enter," Jian Wushuang said indifferently. The door was pushed open, Jiang Shang walked in, and said politely, "Senior harassing in the morning has rested." "It's okay, I just got up." Jian Wushuang replied lightly, and then continued, "By the way, pack up, let's go to Tian City by water today." "It is good." Jiang Shang also had excitement on his face. She didn't want to stay in such a small place. So much so that she forgot why she came to find Jian Wushuang. When telling everyone to pack up, Xiang Yang leaned over mysteriously and whispered, "Did you feel an evil aura last night? You noticed it too?" Jian Wushuang was surprised. After entering the Tang dynasty, he asked Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang to keep their breath away. This kind of turtle breathing method can be created easily, and it is not too difficult. Fortunately, he was more careful, otherwise the demon cultivators found Xiang Yang and the two yesterday. 4229/10872467. Chapter 6285. Chapter 6285. Black Mist. Xiang Yang nodded and replied, "That breath rushed from the sea, and scrupulously, even a deaf person can detect it." "Be quiet." Jian Wushuang frowned slightly, looked up at the window and asked, "How did you know that they came from the sea?" "To be honest, yesterday I saw you sneaking away. I didn't sleep all night, so I just stared outside. As a result, after you left for an hour, a black mist appeared on the sea, and there was a group of evil auras in the mist. I know how many people there are, but the one at the head is definitely a cultivator of the Jindan stage. Jian Wushuang was even more surprised when he heard it. He was not surprised that Xiang Yang found that the group of people came from the sea, but that the other party kept staring at him. This made him a little dissatisfied, and he frowned and said, "Why are you staring at me all the time? I'm not afraid of you running away." Xiang Yang said a little aggrieved, "To be honest, you have been guarding me, and you have not given me a full set of cultivation methods. If I don't keep an eye on me, one day you will think that I am useless and take Jiangshang directly. What about the road?" Xiang Yang's brain has also become active since he embarked on the cultivation path again. He felt more and more that with him and without him, it seemed that Jian Wushuang would have no loss, and he began to worry about what to do if Jian Wushuang dumped him one day. "You worry too much." Jian Wushuang patted Xiang Yang on the shoulder. There is not much explanation because there are some things that cannot be told to him, but will be brought to him. For example, the Wanlu Shenmu on Jiangshang's back seems to have nothing to do with Xiang Yang, but in fact it has a big relationship. Xing Luo has the aura of Wanlu Shenmu, and maybe he can pass Xiang Yang's identity to Xing Luo and lead the other party out. Now their cultivation speed is still too slow. If Xing Luo was willing to take them, it would not be a problem for Jian Wushuang to become immortal again within 100 years. The immortals mentioned here are not immortals in the mortal world, but Yanxian. After Jian Wushuang put aside Xiang Yang, he found an ear. Let him go to prepare supplies and send them on board, and buy as much as he can. Anyway, they will be able to enter the Tang inland soon, there is no need to bring much. After the explanation, the rest of the people have almost cleaned up. They left the inn together. The rain outside was getting heavier and heavier, and everyone was holding oil paper umbrellas, but less clothes were still wet. When I got to the pier, I found that there are still many here. Standing on the pier in the heavy rain, I don't know what to do. When Jian Wushuang and the others approached, they heard bitter sounds. Push aside the crowd. When they walked to the deck of the pier, they found that a pair of old people were crying while hugging the corpse of the woman in sackcloth. The old couple, who went out to fish yesterday and returned to the dock in the morning, found their daughter's body lying on the deck. Jian Wushuang was not surprised. Yesterday's magic cultivator followed the linen woman to the fishing village. It's no wonder he's dead now. But Jian Wushuang still felt a little regretful. Listening to the old man calling his daughter's name line by line, Jian Wushuang also knew that the girl in linen was called Azzy. After writing it down, he boarded the boat without looking back. After One Ear got on the ship with the supplies, he asked One Ear to bring Azzy's parents onto the boat. The fishing village is gone. This pair of old people, it is estimated that they have no place to live, which is really pitiful. Coupled with the coral obtained from their well, Jian Wushuang can be considered to understand the cause and effect. The treasure ship set sail again. After arriving at the Strait of Shanhai County, it began to head towards the Datong Canal. On the way, Aziz's body was buried in water. Jian Wushuang began to refine the coral. The spiritual energy above has been passing by, and it cannot be wasted. It's a pity that he only has this coral now, and he doesn't have a pill furnace, otherwise he can make a pot of pills. Now I can only refine the aura on the coral, so I'm very polite. Fortunately, the aura is very strong, enough to absorb the three of them. The three of them surrounded the coral and began to hit the golden core stage. Indifferent to the outside world. I don't know how long it took, the treasure ship stopped, but Jian Wushuang and the three were still in retreat and practice, no one dared to disturb them, and the ship stopped like that. Half a year passed in a flash. The treasure ship turned back, but 3 people disembarked. It is Jian Wushuang 3 people. It is very close to Tian City. Jian Wushuang sent Air and others away, and the next step was to seek opportunities to enter the world of self-cultivation. It was not suitable to bring a group of mortals, so he gave the boat to Air and let the other party live a good life in the Tang dynasty. As for the 3 of them, they bought 3 fast horses and went straight to Tian City. At a distance of 600 miles, they ran all day. At night, still in the wild. I was thinking of finding a small town to rest for the night. But when they entered a village, they found the silence around them. And there's a rotten smell. It's a corpse. Xiang Yang frowned and walked to a courtyard. Looking at the rotting corpses in the courtyard, his stomach felt uncomfortable, and he almost vomited on the spot. Let's go change place. Jian Wushuang's tone was indifferent. But they have already seen several villages like this. After half a year of retreat, they all reached the Golden Core stage. Originally, Yukong could go directly to Tian City, but in order to keep a low profile, he thought of entering Tian City as a mortal, but he didn't expect to encounter such a strange thing on the road. Even some towns were slaughtered. Everyone's bodies were piled up together, and the corpses had bowl scars on their chests, the same as what he saw in the fishing village. Apparently it was done by a group of people. They have poached the hearts of mortals. Magic religion is rampant. And it's not the usual rampant, it's only 100 miles away from the imperial city. Even if such a thing happened, it is said that the emperor of the Tang dynasty can also relieve the practitioners, and even enshrine the immortals under his command. Is he not afraid that one day the demon sect will slaughter Tian City? The three of them didn't plan to stop, and rushed outside Tian City overnight. There is a curfew at night. So when you go outside the city, you can't get in. We had to wait until dawn before we followed the big team into Tian City. Jiang Shang, who was originally curious about the Tang dynasty, became a little disappointed after passing through those things on the road. Especially after entering Tian City, he just felt extremely prosperous, not the kind of prosperity she thought. Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang are very experienced in this regard. Hearing is worse than seeing. Besides, they have never seen any big city. This kind of prosperous Tang dynasty boasted by mortals, in the eyes of the two of them, it is just like that. At most it is a big once, and it is more prosperous. After all, cannot get rid of Taki. Entering the city, the three found a more prosperous inn in the city and stayed there. Jian Wushuang didn't stop for a moment, pretended a little, and went straight to the first floor of the world. I originally wanted to use gold and silver to buy some information, so I would first understand the Tang dynasty. But when he entered the first floor of the world, he realized that he had come to the wrong place. 4229/10877589. Chapter 6286. Chapter 6286. First floor. There is a rumored magic here. It is simply a shop where mortals gather, inquiring about the materials needed by various places. It is completely a businessman's paradise. Jian Wushuang was very disappointed. Just as he was about to leave, a maid stopped his way. "Sir, my shopkeeper invites you to drink tea on the third floor." "Oh." Jian Wushuang stopped, only then did he dare to let go of his thoughts. Because his identity has been exposed. Otherwise, the maid wouldn't stop him. He simply let go of his thoughts, and above his head, there were several breaths on the second and third floors. Everyone is a cultivator. Even the maid in front of her is a congenital expert. Jian Wushuang pretended to be calm and said, "Let's lead the way." He didn't expect that he would be exposed so quickly. Moreover, he is now in the Golden Core stage. Although it is only the initial stage, he is considered to be a high immortal in the mortal world. He did not expect that in the first floor, he would be broken on the spot. Fortunately, others open the door to do business and will not ask questions about identity. But there is another embarrassing thing about Jian Wushuang, that is, he is penniless. There is no spiritual stone that the cultivation world needs. But now that others invite him, he can only bite the bullet and follow. When he passed the second floor, he noticed that this floor was also very lively, but most of them were innate, and there were some acquired practitioners. In the Jindan period, there are only one or two. On the third floor, almost all of them were Jindan stage powerhouses. They dress like mortals. Walking on the street, ordinary people can't tell the difference. At most, it's a little strange in temperament. In fact, the gap between Jindan stage and mortals is not too big. It is just that there is a force in the body, and it will not change the body of mortals. "Senior, please do it yourself." The maid bowed slightly, and after sending Jian Wushuang to the third floor, she went downstairs. Jian Wushuang nodded and walked to the third floor. The jump here is about 7 or 8 feet high, and there are all kinds of exotic fruits and some heavy books on it. In front of the counter, many people were talking to the shopkeeper about some rare treasures. Jian Wushuang also pricked his ears and listened. But after hearing the spirit stone, his complexion sank. Now he is poor, what can he buy? So much so that he was embarrassed to ask about the function of some treasures. He could only take a cursory glance at it. He ignored the shopkeeper's offer and just nodded frequently. A young shopkeeper said politely, "Senior, is this the first time you have come to the Tang dynasty?" "Well, I just came to Tian City. I have already heard that the first floor in the world is collecting all kinds of treasures, so I came here to grow my eyes." Jian Wushuang spoke very low-key. The young shopkeeper smiled and said, "Senior looks down on our first floor too much. In fact, it's just throwing some ordinary treasures. It is estimated that many senior treasures do not look down on us." After being polite, Jian Wushuang naturally chatted with the other party. Just like other practitioners, it doesn't matter if he buys it or not. The main thing is to exchange some information. For example, some opinions on practice. Of course, these are all clichés. Jian Wushuang can see the essence of this kind of mundane practice method at a glance, and it is natural that the opponent who is bluffing is stunned. After the young shopkeeper listened to his opinion, he was full of admiration, and he was even more enlightened in practice. Junior Zhu Quan thanked the senior for his guidance. The young shopkeeper Zhu Quan directly bowed and saluted. The key point is that he is comparable in strength to Jian Wushuang. They are both in the early stage of Jindan, but with Jian Wushuang's guidance on cultivation, it is enough for him to make a big salute. Jian Wushuang quickly raised his hand to stop it, and said indifferently, "It's just some opinions, you don't have to be polite." No, the senior talents, although the strength is similar to my Zhu Quan, but the juniors in the realm have lost too much, I should honor the juniors. Zhu Quan went on to say, "Senior is such a talented person, he should come to this first floor for the imperial list issued by Emperor Tang." Imperial list? Jian Wushuang frowned. He really hadn't heard of this, but it was obviously not easy for the other party to take the initiative to mention this matter, so he took advantage of the situation and said, "I've only heard a little about it, take the time to learn about it." The senior has found the right person. This emperor list is still on the first floor. I will use it for the senior to watch. After Zhu Quan finished speaking, his toes lifted slightly into the air, and he took down an imperial decree from the top. Jian Wushuang raised his head slightly, and his heart was searching for things about the emperor list. He hadn't heard of the emperor list released by Emperor Tang on the way. But when he thought about the mortals who had been harmed by demons on the way, he felt that it had something to do with it. Just when he was thinking about it, Zhu Quan opened the imperial list. In order to show respect, Jian Wushuang looked a little more serious. Actually, there is nothing to see in this imperial list. It's just the handwriting of His Majesty, with some artistic conception that contains Taoism. Ordinary people can't see it at all. Seniors, please take a look. Zhu Quan said and pushed the imperial list over. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to comment on the situation. This handwriting contains sword intent and has an immortal state of eternity. The person who wrote it must have surpassed the Jindan period. This sentence is not a compliment, but the other party really has this ability. The handwriting carries sword intent, and he can see it at a glance. As for the Taoist method that Zhu Quan said, it is simply nonsense. The Taoist method contained in the handwriting must at least have the strength of the ancestral realm. Only Taoist ancestors can do whatever they want in Taoism. A little mortal dares to show a little bit of Taoism, that's not bad. However, His Majesty the Emperor is indeed much stronger than them, surpassing the golden core stage. In the world of ordinary self-cultivation, it can be regarded as the strongest. At least it's an infantile monk. In Jian Wushuang's view, this mortal world is very special, because the spiritual energy is absorbed by the spiritual things, and the pure cultivation is only congenital great perfection, and the follow-up needs the assistance of heaven and earth treasures. Breaking through the golden core stage is already very difficult. If you want to reach the stage of infancy, it is more difficult than reaching the sky. And the emperor of the Tang dynasty, as far as he knows, is still very young, and he may not have practiced for 20 years. That also shows that the Tang dynasty royal family has sufficient resources, and that the Tang emperor's aptitude is special. In such a difficult environment, the practitioners who are created are considered geniuses in the outside world. Of course, they cannot be compared with those descendants with powerful bloodlines. But he didn't think so, and he commented that Emperor Tang was very powerful, but it attracted Zhu Quan's strange eyes. Jian Wushuang didn't know where he said the wrong thing for a while, and thought it was the Tang emperor who hid his strength and was broken by him. Senior is really extraordinary. It can be deduced that Emperor Tang has surpassed the golden core stage based on his handwriting. The younger generation really admires it, but this is not a secret. In fact, His Majesty has surpassed the golden core stage 3 years ago. Otherwise, this great Tang dynasty it may have changed a long time ago. Zhu Quan said as if he had some memories. 4229/10883137. Chapter 6287. Chapter 6287 The Four Great Cultivation Realms. In fact, he was about the same age as Emperor Tang, and belonged to someone who had experienced that era, but at that time he was only congenitally consummate, and breaking through the golden core stage was also a recent period of time. On the contrary, Jian Wushuang's face is very young, only in his early 20s, but his temperament is extraordinary, and it can't help but make people guess that it is because of the early practice that makes the youth permanent. However, Jian Wushuang's aura is very weak, unlike the kind of Jindan stage cultivator who swirled into the sea. But with the pattern and insights just shown, Zhu Quan still admires it very much, and he may not say so much when encountering others. Finding that Jian Wushuang really didn't know about Datong at all, he talked about some major events in Datong in recent years. Senior may be from the southern heaven cultivation realm, and I don't know much about the east. In fact, it's nothing. This eastern cultivation realm is mainly around 3 places: a temple, a method, and a tomb. Zhu Quan raised his head and first talked about the origin of the Tang dynasty. It also briefly summarizes the current situation of the cultivation world. First, it is divided into 4 realms of self-cultivation. The southern heaven realm is also known as the southern 7 kingdoms. In fact, this Jian Wushuang is also not clear. When he was in Jiang country, he had never been in contact with the realm of self-cultivation. Then there is the eastern land cultivation realm. That is, the Tang dynasty. In fact, the human race cultivation world is more prosperous than the eastern land and the southern heaven realm. The remaining 2 worlds, one is in the northern territory glacier, which is occupied by a group of demon cultivators known as the Holy Religion. Few practitioners go to the northern territory glacier. It is rumored that the ancient demons are sealed there, and the Holy Religion is left by the ancient demons. Inherited. This made Jian Wushuang very curious, but he did not ask, thinking that he would have time to find out later. Then listened down. Originally thought that after Dongtu, Nantian, and Beichuan, things would be in the west, but Zhu Quan changed his words and said, "Speaking of which, no matter what the distinction between righteousness and evil is in the 3 cultivation worlds in front of you, at least they have inheritance and origin. Continuous practitioners, but this last realm of self-cultivation started because of one person." Jian Wushuang still doesn't know anything about such an iconic thing. Zhu Quan had some doubts about whether Jian Wushuang had eaten some exotic fruit, and was directly promoted from a mortal to a cultivator of the Jindan stage. If it weren't for the previous insights and pattern, he would really doubt it. But now he only thinks that Jian Wushuang is an ascetic cultivator, the kind who doesn't care about world affairs, just keeps his head down and cultivates. Jian Wushuang was also so happy. Opening his mouth was how it was in the mountains, making the other party more convinced that he was an ascetic from the deep mountains. Facing Zhu Quan's words, he was surprised. It's not all pretending, but he is really curious, who is so capable, and one person is the world of self-cultivation. Somewhat exaggerated. The practitioners in this mortal world are very weak, and they cannot achieve the level of destroying the sky and destroying the earth. Seeing that he didn't believe it, Zhu Quan lowered his voice and said, This last cultivation world was actually a huge cultivation world back then, but because of one person, that cultivation world became a legend and was completely erased from this world. After that, that person claimed to be a world of his own, and now he is a dragon who sees the beginning but does not see the end, and is a big man in the entire cultivation world. There is such a second person. Jian Wushuang nodded in praise and then asked, "By the way, what is his nickname?" Zhu Quan replied, "This person doesn't have a name, he just claims that he is a prophet in the world of self-cultivation and can predict the future, and he also said that there will be a peerless major cultivator born in the world of self-cultivation in recent years, breaking the shackles of the mortal world and leading the entire self-cultivation world. The world is promoted to the spiritual world." Prophet. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed when he heard the name, and his heart was particularly shocked. He couldn't forget the figure he had dreamed of earlier. It is the figure of the prophet. Coincide? In the past, Jian Wushuang might have believed it, but now he doesn't believe it. Everything probably has a cause and effect. And he is trapped in this world. I am afraid there are some calculations. Don't forget, at the beginning he was incarnated in thousands, ready to lift the coffin board of the tomb of the gods. In this way, you can find your own way to overcome the calamity. The thoughts were pulled a little far away for a while. Seeing his silence, Zhu Quan thought he was shocked, so he comforted him. "Senior, don't be too surprised, many cultivators scoffed at him in private, and this person didn't take any action after he wiped out the cultivation world. However, in terms of strength, there is nothing to prove, maybe we overestimated him." "Maybe." Jian Wushuang nodded silently. "On the surface, this is said, but in my heart I don't think so. If only it were that simple. It's a bit far-fetched. Let's talk about the Tang dynasty, which is the origin of the Eastern land cultivation realm, and its splendor is not weaker than that prophet." Zhu Quan talked eloquently, narrating the glory of the Eastern land Tang dynasty and some of the love and hatred at the beginning. 1,000 years ago in the Eastern land, there was no Tang dynasty. At that time, Dongtu was also the weakest of the 4 cultivation realms. And Dongtu has always believed in Buddhism. The poor monk who was originally few, is not good at fighting, and seeks treasures outside, and is often bullied by other monks in the cultivation world. Then a remarkable figure appeared. He was originally a prince of a mortal dynasty, and later married the princess of the Tang dynasty and came to Tian City. The bond between the two was considered a marriage between dynasties, but the relationship between the two was very good. Even if the prince was the concubine, he didn't have any complaints, and he even loved the princess very much, which was still a good story back then. However, the good times did not last long. A few years after they got married, the princess suddenly fell ill with a serious illness. Although the original Tang imperial family also had Shangxian, they were unable to cure the princess. It is rumored that only by going to the glacier in the northern region and seeking the inheritance of the ancient fairy can cure the princess' illness. But at that time, the cultivators of the eastern earth could not even go to the northern glacier, even if they could not keep their own territory. Not to mention looking for the chance inheritance in the glaciers of the northern region. Besides, it's just a princess, and Datong didn't want to let the enshrined Shangxian take risks because of this. In addition, at that time, because of the prevalence of Buddhism, everything was about the word of fate. To put it bluntly, it's all coincidence. But the concubine is not reconciled. In order to save the princess, he went to the glacier in the northern region with the body of a mortal. Decades later, just when everyone thought he had died on the road, he miraculously came back. And he also became a great cultivator of the infant transformation stage. This move shocked the Eastern Earth cultivation world at that time. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang couldn't help but ask, "What happened later? The concubine saved the princess?" "No." Zhu Quan shook his head. What happened after that was unpleasant. After the prince-in-law returned, he still failed to save the princess. It seems that the minds of the two are intertwined, and within a month of the concubine's return, the princess died. Chapter 6288. Chapter 6288 Baoguang Temple of Crouching Tiger. Hidden Dragon. Then came the beginning of the Eastern Land cultivation realm. Princess Grave. The concubine built a huge princess tomb. Moreover, he also recruited many disciples and taught a group of powerful monks for Princess Tomb. She has been silently guarding the tomb of the princess. Now it is the top cultivation force in the eastern land. Jian Wushuang was fascinated, and he thought of Baoguang Temple. One temple, one grave. But he wanted to know more about what happened to that concubine. Zhu Quan sighed and deplored, "This is about to say that if the inheritance of Taoism that the concubine found from the glacier in the northern region was left to the entire eastern land. That's why today's Great Tang is today." He became a monk at Baoguang Temple and became a monk. Which real immortal is enshrined in Baoguang Temple? This made Jian Wushuang think of the true immortals enshrined in Baoguang Temple that Xiang Yang said. Moreover, this temple was the first cultivation force in the Eastern Earth cultivation realm, and it was also the origin of the Eastern Earth cultivation realm. I thought that the concubine would be the true immortal of Baoguang Temple. Unexpectedly, there was someone else. The true immortal of Baoguang Temple has nothing to do with this matter, and that senior is not the head of the monk. Zhu Quan shook his head and sighed lightly. I only know that the concubine was a monk in Baoguang Temple, and his affairs gradually became indifferent. I still don't know if he is still in Baoguang Temple. After listening to the origin of the Eastern Land cultivation world, as well as the history of its rise and fall, unlike Zhu Quan, Jian Wushuang spoke with awe. Rather, it is to ponder some of the causal relationships among them. Because the princess was ill, the concubine went to the glacier in the northern region, from the vulgar to the baby. The princess died a month after returning, and then infatuated with the construction of the princess tomb. Back home again. There's probably more to be hidden here. He doesn't believe that an ordinary person can become such a character by the power of love. More able to go down the mountain to be a mortal at the peak. If there is such a person, he really wants to see it. Before I knew it, I had been on the first floor for a day. Usually, the third floor is a place where some monks discuss Taoism with each other. There is tea waiting, and no one cares about the concept of time. But Jian Wushuang had just arrived, and there were two people waiting for him, so he got up and said goodbye to Zhu Quan. When leaving, he also asked Zhu Quan to inquire about a person's whereabouts. What he wanted to know was almost clear. The rest depends on the good fortune of a few of them. And now, there is such an opportunity. When they returned to the inn, both Xiang Yang and Jiang Shang came back. They each talked about what they had encountered and what they had heard. However, what the two inquired about was not as detailed as Jian Wushuang. When Jian Wushuang spoke about the four worlds of self-cultivation, as well as some secret things about Dongtu, they all revealed a surprised expression. Jiang Shang was shocked by the splendor of the world of self-cultivation, while Xiang Yang was a little disappointed, feeling that this world was too small. This is also normal. Jiang Shang is a mortal after all. Even if he becomes a cultivator, he knows too little, far from Xiang Yang's big pattern. Xiang Yang at the time was, after all, a genius with a family of cosmic gods. He has a clear understanding of the pattern of the entire world god continent. How can this material world enter the eye? Jian Wushuang doesn't care. He knows that the road has to be taken step by step, rather than one step at a time. The smaller the material plane, the safer it is for them. Of course, now he and Xiang Yang are still pretending to be monks in the Tang dynasty, but they are just ascetic and they don't care about the world. By the way, there is one more thing I forgot to mention, that is, the attack on Emperor Tang 3 years ago. Jian Wushuang paused for a moment, then said, "This matter may be the entry point for me to enter the world of self-cultivation." The 3-year-old Tang emperor was attacked by a foreign race, almost lost his life, escaped from the palace, and later broke through to the stage of Huang. After killing the alien race, he will regain the throne. Xiang Yang's eyes froze when he heard this, and he said in surprise, "Attacked by a foreign race? Could it be that Princess Tomb and Baoguang Temple are just watching?" The practitioners of Princess Tomb don't care about the affairs of the mortal dynasty, and Baoguang Temple doesn't like conflicts, so they really just watch. Jian Wushuang analyzed, "I guess the identity of the alien was not simple at the beginning. There must be something strange in it, but there is too little information disclosed and I can't see through it. But one thing is that when Emperor Tang was attacked, it was an emperor. The concubine defended Tang Huang from a fatal attack, otherwise Tang Huang would have already died. Jiang Shang was startled and then said, I heard a lot about this in Jiangguoshe. When the great Tang changed, the Tang emperor was living abroad, and an alien powerhouse occupied the magpie's nest and occupied the palace for a month. Afterwards, Emperor Tang returned and beheaded the alien race, but the imperial concubine did not die, but was seriously injured and remained in the palace, and Emperor Tang also released an imperial list to find someone to treat the imperial concubine. Jian Wushuang also knew about the imperial list, but he didn't take it to heart. Now that he heard Jiang Shang's explanation, he was a little more concerned. A mortal imperial concubine, who blocked a deadly sneak attack for Emperor Tang, was outrageous if he did not die. The key point was that when Emperor Tang left, he did not take this imperial concubine with him. Instead, he was imprisoned by the alien powerhouse, or it could be said that he was taking care of the dying concubine Tang. Later, Emperor Tang returned, beheaded the powerful aliens, announced that Tang Huangfei did not die, and also released the emperor list, seeking famous doctors to save the emperor. Jian Wushuang felt that this matter was very familiar. Isn't this the information from the early Tang dynasty? Last time it was to save the princess, this time it was to save the princess. After the success of the former, Datong became the first dynasty in the east. Dongtu. Jian Wushuang stood in front of the window, silently reciting the Eastern Land Tang dynasty. For a while he looked a little dazed. Dongtu? Datong? Killing dynasty. He seems to have experienced it. Is it another coincidence? Jian Wushuang shook his head. He didn't believe it anymore. The mortal road seems to be rebuilt, but it seems to be very similar to the mortal road when he rose. Even the name is the same. He once met a Tang dynasty in the east. But some can't remember clearly, only know where there is endless killing. Seeing his haggard appearance, Xiang Yang stepped forward and comforted him. You don't have to worry so much about how to integrate into the Eastern Earth cultivation realm. We might as well just let nature take its course. Let's go to those dangerous ruins to take risks, and when we get the treasure, we will become Huaying. Cultivator, someone will naturally come to win us over, and it won't take long to break through this world. I hope so. Jian Wushuang nodded silently, then looked at Jiang Shang, and said indifferently, You don't want to go to Baoguang Temple alone. Call me when you go. Jiang Shang was a little surprised, but agreed. The next morning, the three of them left the inn again. Because of the curfew at night, the three of them could only rest in the inn. Since the aliens rushed in 3 years ago, the control of Tyne City has been extremely strict. Chapter 6289. Even the immortals cannot walk around at night, otherwise they will be arrested by the imperial court. Although the alien invasion 3 years ago caused the Tang dynasty to lose its vitality, the control of the capital is still very strong. Walking on the street, you can often see the patrolling guards. All of them are acquired martial artists, and a group of 9 can capture the innate masters. In addition to the Forbidden Army, there is also the Zhan Xianwei, that belonged to the Tang Emperor alone. It belongs to the exclusive power of Emperor Tang. Each is a congenital warrior, a group of 3, responsible for the security of the imperial city, and rarely appears in the outer city. As a result, Jian Wushuang and Jiang Shang collided with each other by accident. This is Zhan Xianwei? Jiang Shang whispered, No wonder the Tang dynasty is so powerful. The Zhan Xianwei patrolling are all innate warriors. It is incredible to hear that there is a secret whistle of Shangxian. Jian Wushuang shook his head and said, This is nothing. As long as there are resources, even the top people in this world will be willing to bow their heads and bow their heads. This is a matter of experience. Mere knowledge in the mundane world is not enough to understand the realm of self-cultivation. At present, Jian Wushuang has a rough understanding of this small world. Judging from his experience, this should be a material world, a world that can soar. It's just that the resources in this world are currently limited, not enough for practitioners to break out of the cage. Even him. Without resources, just relying on experience, that's just talking on paper. Therefore, Jian Wushuang and the others have to explore the secrets of this world step by step and seek some lost treasures before they can jump out of this cage. Although outside this world, there are bounds. Jian Wushuang knew very well in his heart that under the hole he entered, it was by no means an ordinary small world, but a world capable of carrying the universe God. You must know that none of the four major dimensions of time and space can carry the universe God. In that world, there are so many cosmic God-level monsters to escape. Among them, there are many superpowers in the universe gods. If it is Jian Wushuang's external body, he still has confidence. The body of the outside world almost possesses the complete combat power of 9 stars. Breaking this cage is naturally a no-brainer. But now in this world, I want to return to the peak. It was too difficult for him. Thinking of this, I quickly walked to the door of Baoguang Temple. Just when he was about to walk in, he found Jiang Shang standing beside him. His eyes were straight, and he didn't take a step. "What's wrong?" Jian Wushuang asked in confusion. Jiang Shang was stunned and said, "It's nothing, just when I saw the plaque, I felt a little inexplicable in my heart." Hearing the plaque, Jian Wushuang also looked up. Simple 3 big characters, nothing special. But one thing is obvious, that is, the handwriting comes from the hands of practitioners. Between the lines, the gully that contains the breath is definitely not carved by others. But for this Tang dynasty, where the immortals are everywhere, this is not a surprising thing. If it wasn't for Jiang Shang, Jian Wushuang would never have cared. But he just remembered this matter in his heart, and he was ready to enter Baoguang Temple. At this time, a young monk came out alone in the door. He was wearing a cassock, his face was handsome, and his eyes had a sense of zen. The 2 benefactors, "Are you here to find someone?" the Qing Xiu Sang Shou said in one sentence. This really surprised Jian Wushuang and Jiang Shang. Especially Jian Wushuang. After the 3 of them entered Tian City, they were very low-key. Although they entered and exited some cultivators, they did not take the initiative to reveal their strength and their background. Speaking of exposure, it was also Jian Wushuang. He had a chat with Zhu Quan on the first floor. But the other party is only the Shangxian on the first floor, and it has little to do with Baoguang Temple. Jian Wushuang's breath was calm, and although he was surprised, his expression did not change. Jiang Shang, who was beside him, had a dazed expression. How could he know? Jiang Shang's heart moved and his face sank. The handsome monk also seemed to see Jiang Shang's surprise, but he couldn't see any expression on Jian Wushuang beside him. "Master Fengjue asked me to receive the 2 donors. "Master Fengjue?" Jiang Shang, who heard this name, was even more puzzled. She didn't know this person at all. Jian Wushuang, who was next to him, nodded silently and said, "Let's go. Since someone invites you in, it's better than having 2 eyes in the dark." Yesterday on the first floor, I heard Zhu Quan talk about several eminent monks in Baoguang Temple. Among them was this Master Fengjue. Fengjue, Buddhist Mahayana Vajra. Its strength is already in the late stage of Jindan, and it can be said to be invincible under Huaying with the combination of Buddhist Vajra magic. Because the cultivator of Jindan period could not break his defense at all. More than 100 years ago, this Buddhist Vajra preached in the southern heaven realm, which is now the southern 7 kingdoms. Because he came from the eastern land, he was destroyed by the monks from the southern heaven realm to preach at the dojo. Also because of this battle, Master Fengju became famous completely. Now more than 100 years have passed, and its strength has reached an unpredictable level. But this is nothing to Jian Wushuang at all. Even if Zhu Quan blows up this old monk, he is only a cultivator of Jindan stage. It was just that he was a little curious as to why Yu Kanshu www. Was this Master Fengjue? Although he is the top 3 monks in Baoguang Temple, he has nothing to do with them. If it was the first-generation host of Baoguang Temple, he might not be so confused. Or who is the real fairy? The 2 of them each had their doubts and followed the bald young man into the Baoguang Temple. Entering the inner courtyard, pilgrims come and go from time to time with serious expressions on their faces. There are many pilgrims with sad faces, and their eyes are also lost. However, when these people meet the head of the clean-faced monk, they will respectfully call out, Master Fanchen. This also allowed Jian Wushuang and Jiang Shang to know the name of this little monk. I thought it was just a little novice, but I didn't expect it to be a master. If you think about it, in the ordinary world, as long as they are not children or teenagers, then those in the temples can be counted as masters. Follow the mortal dust through the front yard where people come and go, and it becomes a lot cleaner in an instant. 2 benefactors, I will send them here. Master Fengjue will come later, please wait a moment. Fanchen lowered his eyebrows and smiled. Jian Wushuang nodded sullenly. After the other party left, the 2 of them looked at each other and didn't speak, but looked at the backyard. The courtyard is neat and tidy, with no superfluous furnishings. So both of them looked at the lobby with the open door in the backyard. Although standing outside, but looking towards the door, you can vaguely see a silhouette. That's it. Jiang Shang frowned when he saw the scene inside the door. Seeing that her expression was wrong, Jian Wushuang also looked intently. The 2 who have reached the golden core stage are smart, and can see the scene inside the door clearly even if they are far apart. In particular, Jian Wushuang can feel the scene inside the door without the naked eye relying solely on his own mind power. Chapter 6290. A Buddha Image. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, and he didn't feel that there was anything wrong, but when he looked carefully, he found something strange. Baoguang Temple. In Buddhist holy places, it is natural to pay homage to Buddha images. To outsiders, this is nothing at all. But that Buddha had too many surprises and doubts for Jian Wushuang and Jiang Shang. The first surprise was Jian Wushuang. He was surprised and puzzled. Surprisingly, this Buddha looks very much like a human being. Hui Qing. This is what surprised and puzzled Jiang Shang. Because the moment she saw the Buddha's image, her heart was touched, as if she saw a person who didn't exist before, but appeared in her life. Jiang Shang or Jiang Shang. In her life, she did have a lot of involvement with Hui Qing. From a young age, he was adopted by Hui Qing. The master-disciple relationship between the 2 may have taken up less than half of Hui Qing's time, but it took up Jiang Shang's entire life. The past was flashed in front of Jian Wushuang's eyes, but now Jiang Shang doesn't remember at all. I just feel that I have an indescribable feeling about the Buddha image, like seeing the plaque outside the door. Ugh! Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart. It will still come. He has long discovered that this small world seems to be inextricably linked with his past. Seeing Hui Qing's Buddha image now confirms his guess. Just don't know when this will end. Just when the 2 of them had their own thoughts, a voice brought them back to reality. The 2 donors seemed to be very interested in the Tongtian Buddha, Lord of my Baoguang Temple. A black-robed figure stood behind the 2 at an unknown time. Hearing the sound, the 2 of them turned around and looked at each other. Poor monk Fengjue. The black-robed monk put his hands together and lowered his eyebrows slightly. Black monk, this outfit is very strange. The well-informed Jian Wushuang didn't find it strange, but because the other party's words were a little ecstatic. Master Tongtian? He asked in surprise, is he still alive? Hai Fengjue was stunned for a moment, then smiled awkwardly. The donor has some high regard for my Baoguang Temple. The Buddha Lord Tongtian is the Lord of God, and the poor monks don't even know it. God again. Jian Wushuang gave up this time, and guessed in his heart that this method should be the inheritance obtained by the concubine, not from this world. But why would he take the title of a heavenly Buddha Lord? This is obviously the Dharma of Hui Qing. He had a lot of doubts in his heart, but they couldn't be explained by the black-clothed monk in front of him, so he simply stopped asking. Jiang Shang next to him asked his doubts. Master Fengjue, how did you know that the 2 of us came to Baoguang Temple? You specially asked Master Fanchen to lead me to come here? Jiang Shang's eyes were suspicious. The same goes for Jian Wushuang, who wants to hear the other party's explanation. Don't be in a hurry, the 2 of you first go to visit the Buddha Lord Tonggun. Feng Ju didn't seem to be in a hurry or slow, and regardless of the expressions of the 2, he passed through the 2 and walked towards the main hall where the Dharma was enshrined. Jian Wushuang and the 2 could only follow. He wanted to see what the other party was selling. Ever since they arrived in Tian City, They felt that there was something indescribable surrounding them. Maybe he can get some things he wants to know from Fengjue Hai. Entering the main hall in the backyard, a gentle incense filled my mind. Fengju took out the incense and handed it over, then lit his head and bowed to himself. Jiang Shang also followed suit. When Jian arrived at Jian Wushuang, he stayed where he was and never went to worship. It's not that he can't pull this face off, but it's weird. Now he actually wants to burn incense for Huiqing's Dharma image. When he thought of the first time he met Huiqing in the Great Wilderness, he couldn't help sighing. Why, doesn't the Wushuang donor believe in Buddhism? Hai Fengjue was not surprised, and looked at Jian Wushuang with a dazed expression. Even if you don't worship, it's nothing. However, Jian Wushuang still bravely bowed and worshipped a stick of incense. I used to respect him like a god. Jian Wushuang's voice changed a lot in an instant. But there is another word in my heart. He used to respect me like a god. Throughout the morning, Jian Wushuang and Jiang Shang walked around Baoguang Temple with the head of the black-clothed monk Fengju. Talk while walking. Until noon, under the warm invitation of the other party, the two left. On the way back, Jiang Shang asked with a puzzled face, "Senior, why are you leaving in such a hurry? I see Master Fengju. It seems that he still has something to say. When he finishes speaking, we won't be able to go out." Jian Wushuang shook his head silently and said, "Don't be so mysterious as he thinks. What this guy knows is probably from the first floor. Clothes are tricky, but there's nothing special about them." Jiang Shang, who seemed to understand but did not understand, dropped him half a step, so he rolled his eyes. In her opinion, it was Jian Wushuang, an old-fashioned man who hadn't entered the world for too long, so she felt that no one was as good as herself, and she looked like she was aloof all day. This is also the summary she has made for so many days. And many times, when she found out that Jian Wushuang and Xiang Yang were together, they always put on a look of bitterness and hatred. But she didn't know how depressed Jian Wushuang was now. Especially today I saw Huiqing's Dharma. Back to the inn. The two went back to their own rooms. On Jiang Shang's side, he was still thinking about the words of Master Fengjue today. In particular, Master Fengju mentioned Jiang was same goes for Jian Wushuang. It's just that his and Jiang Shang's receipts are different. First of all, in many words, the Master Fengju told them vaguely to let them leave Taiyan City or leave the Tang dynasty. Think carefully. The words he said to Zhu Quan yesterday did not reveal much about himself. How could they be targeted? Jian Wushuang frowned, puzzled. Which black-clothed monk he met for the first time? And the words he said to Zhu Quan were also flawless. Why would a monk from Baoguang Temple be targeted? At first, he was excited to think that the other party knew his true identity. Especially when I see Huiqing's Dharma portrait. And that black robe, even if Fengju's true identity was the demon Lord Wutian at that time, he believed it. But what Fengju said later was 100% ordinary. I just learned from Zhu Quan that he was an ascetic. On the other hand, Jiang Shang's details also made the other party have nothing to do with it. Thinking that he had been investigated, Jiang Shang would definitely not be able to escape. After all, he is the head of a country, and it is very difficult to erase his original identity. It's normal to be found out. Looks like it's not coming for me. Jian Wushuang stood with his hands behind his back. After thinking for a while, he came to a conclusion. This Baoguang Temple is not for him, but for Jiang Shang. Otherwise, he really couldn't think of why Fengju would investigate them. They are still vaguely telling them to leave Taiyan City today. Jiang Shang might not be able to hear it, but he could hear what the other party meant. Is he trying to remind Jiang Shang? Taiyan City is not peaceful. Chapter 6291. Late at night. The drizzle covered the entire Taiyan City. Because of the curfew, there was no sound on the street except for the sound of the drizzle hitting the eaves. However, Zhan Xianwei, who patrolled the entire Taiyan City, was like a ghost, hiding in the darkness without revealing the slightest figure. At this time, on the originally empty street, there were several figures in black. Through the raindrops, in the blink of an eye, these figures quickly disappeared from the street again. Just appearing for less than a breath, immediately attracted the attention of Zhan Xianwei. This block belongs to the outer city, but Zhang Xianwei also has a team in charge of this place. As the Zhang Xianwei who is responsible for the safety of the entire Taiyan city, and which is the direct force of His Majesty Tang Emperor, Zhang Xianwei has extremely exaggerated power. At night, it can be said that they are the sky of Taiyan city. Once a suspicious person is discovered, the privilege can be exercised, and even if the prince is killed, he will not be held accountable. In fact, the Taiyan city in the past was not so strict, but since the sudden advance of the king 3 years ago, the entire Taiyan city has become agitated. Even if the Emperor Tang is now on the Debao again, the curfew is getting stricter and stricter. Tsk, with such a radiant action at night, are they dying? On the eaves, a middle-aged man in a snow suit with a jug hanging from his waist revealed a murderous intent. Behind him, 2 young men dressed similarly quickly appeared, but in their airspace, there was only a copper coin. The middle-aged man with a wine jug hanging on his waist had a full 6 copper coins hanging on it. And this copper coin is not ordinary, there is an ancient atmosphere above it. It is also the symbol of immortal slaying guard. Master Yang, why are you in Tongan district? The 2 immortal slaying guards clasped their fists respectfully, but they were deeply surprised. You must know that in Zhang Xianwei, the number of copper coins in the chest represents strength and status. The immortal Zhang Wei who can hang 6 copper coins is at least the commander level. Moreover, the strength can easily sweep the ordinary Zhang Xianwei. Such powerful characters generally only appear in the imperial city. In the entire outer city, only the immortal Zhang Wei guards with 4 copper coins are in charge of guarding it. Humph! He casually stroked the 6 copper coins on his chest. The middle-aged man took off the jug from his waist, flicked his fingers, and a wisp of fresh air flew out. If I'm not here, can those people just walk around Taiyan city unscrupulously? The 2 ordinary Zhang Xianwei were startled and shivered. One of them hurriedly bowed and said, Master Yang, those people just now belonged to the holy sect. The South Protector has an order to allow them to walk around the outer city. Nan Hu Fa. Yang Shao lowered his eyebrows and sneered. That was an immortal slaying guard master whose strength was almost the same as his. However, in the immortal slaying guard, there are 2 categories. One is Yang Shao, who is very powerful and owns 6 copper coins, but is not a high-level executive of Zhang Xianwei. There is also a type of strong, and they are the powerhouses at the top of the immortal slaying guard. That South Protector is the top of the immortal slaying guard. Although they are all strong with 6 copper coins, Yang Shao has no way to take the opponent. Go back and tell Nanshan that the imperial power is chartered, not to let him use it for evil, and that holy sect, a Jianghu sect, let the imperial power bow his head. It's humiliating my prestige of slaying the immortal guard. After Yang Shao finished speaking, his figure disappeared directly above the eaves in a flash. The immortal slaying guard who opened his mouth earlier immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In one breath, the coercion of the strong, they simply cannot bear. The immortal guard with a copper coin is a congenital expert. 2 copper coins are the masters of the late innate. 3 copper coins represent congenital perfection. Every 3 copper coins is a watershed. 6 copper coins, that is the ultimate immortal, that is, the great perfection of Jindan. With the master Fengjue of Baoguang Temple, how can such a strong person not let them feel happy? Fortunately, I, Yang Shao, don't have any authority, otherwise, just because of our indifference to the Saint Sect powerhouse, this Yang Shao can kill us both. Hey, our brothers are also unlucky. This Yang Shao usually patrols the imperial city. Why did he appear in the outer city today? Don't think about it, this is not something we can figure out with bronze guards like us. Let's go quickly, go to the city wall and tell the South Protector, and then the 2 of us can go to the brothel to drink and drink. Let's go. The 2 shuffled around on the eaves and soon reached the city wall. After all, they were in the outer city. Inside a tall building in the city wall. The fire was so bright that it was like day on the top floor. There is a chessboard in the center, but only one person sits beside the chessboard and plays chess alone. To protect the law, Yang Shao appeared in the Tongshan district, and also discovered the traces of the holy sect, Pat. When the chess piece fell, the guardian of Nanshan did not raise his head, but gave a sigh of relief, then sent the two bronze guards away and continued their game. After about an incense stick, he took a deep breath, glanced at the chessboard, and stood up slowly. Standing up and looking at Tian City behind him, the middle-aged man in black uniform looked like a torch, as if he could see through the entire Tian City at a glance. Yang Xiao, do you even see the problem? His voice was very low, has a nameless sadness. But it was fleeting. Tian City in the middle of the night, like a wild beast, devoured all darkness. But in this darkness, there is a cold light flashing. Behind the cold light, there is a terrifying force hidden. It was the group of Shengzong who walked around the outer city before. A group of 9 people, all of whom are Jindan stage immortals, are hiding at a crossroads at this moment. Elder, the 2 who went to Baoguang Temple during the day can confirm that they lived in the restaurant and never went out. Okay, keep staring and wait for my order before you start. The leading Shengzong elder waved his hand. Immediately, the black-robed figure entered the restaurant again. But the moment he entered the restaurant, a man and a woman stood in front of him. The figure in the black robe was not surprised, just tore off the black robe and said Tan Ran, one of the 9 golden core stages, one of whom is still a late-stage golden core powerhouse, seems to be a battle tonight. Fortunately, Brother Wushuang arranged in advance, otherwise it would be troublesome tonight. Xiang Yang smiled as he looked at Jian Wushuang who had taken off his black robe. Jian Wushuang had a grim expression on his face. After returning from Baoguang Temple, the more he thought about it, the more wrong he became. He guessed Master Fengzhi's reminder, and also understood that this matter was aimed at Jiang Shang, so he arranged it early, secretly observed the surrounding of the restaurant, and also it really made him grab a tongue. The person who was just stalking was a high immortal of the Jindan stage. At night, he directly killed the other party. With the power of thought, he directly changed his breath and disguised himself as the member of the holy religion. This is the scene just now. Fortunately, his mind power is strong, otherwise tonight is doomed to be in danger. Now at least he is in the dark and the opponent is in the light, and there is room to breathe. Chapter 6292. Don't be careless, those ordinary Jindan cultivators don't matter, but the strength of the elder among them is probably not simple. Even if I want to kill the opponent, it will take a certain amount of time, and here is Tian City, there are immortal killers. Guard, once a battle occurs, it will quickly attract the attention of the other party. When they are surrounded by immortal guards, they will not care who moves first, and I suspect that this immortal guard has some relationship with the holy religion, otherwise even the demon cultivator can't enter the city. His suspicions were not unreasonable. Since he caught a demon cultivator, he tried to take Xiang Yang and Jiang Shang out of the city at night, but just after leaving the restaurant, he sensed a strong aura. That breath is at least the golden core of perfection. Feeling threatened, they had no choice but to return to the restaurant. If I had known, we would have changed places. Xiang Yang was a little annoyed. Jiang Shang didn't think so. He frowned and said, "It's useless to change anywhere. Being targeted by these demon sects, as long as you are in Tian City, there is nowhere to hide. Don't think so bad, at least we won't be too passive, and we have the opportunity to take the lead." Jian Wu's eyes had a cold glow. A mere team of Jindan period. If it was 3 days ago, he might still have some headaches. But right now, it's really not that big of a threat. As his mind power gradually recovered, he had a hunch that this small world could not suppress his powerful thoughts. If it is placed elsewhere, even if the consciousness becomes immortal again, the powerful thought force can also make his clone return to the original body. But this world has always bound him. In addition to the prophet in his dream, Jiang Shang behind him, and Hui Qing's dharma, he felt more and more that this world might exist because of him, so he couldn't break it. Su Ri couldn't break it, but his mind power has been growing and his current mind power can cover the surrounding area of 30 miles, including the entire Copper Mountain area. Such a powerful mind power, even a great cultivator in the infant transformation stage, cannot do it. The key point is that such a powerful thought force can not only inspect the surroundings, but also exert coercion. The coercion from the monks who surpassed the infancy. It is enough to sweep the general Jindan stage, and even the late Jindan powerhouse will be stunned. This is the strength of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang frowned, took out the token he got from the demon cultivator, and reminded, "Prepare to fight, those guys are ready to touch it." "It is good. Kindness." Xiang Yang and Jiang Shang jumped up the beam on the first floor together, while Jian Wushuang was standing on the second floor, covering 10 miles around him with a single movement of his mind. The reason why it is not completely covered is because he wants to condense it a little so that it is enough to sweep away the pressure of the golden core stage. The rest is left to Xiang Yang and Jiang Shang. The two teamed up to attack the demon elder. This elder is a cultivator in the late stage of Jindan. With strong strength, Jian Wushuang's current thought power is enough to shock the opponent. But short-term restraint can still do it. Outside the restaurant. At the crossroads, a group of 9 men in black robes sneaked into the restaurant by the sound of the rain falling. "Be careful, be sure to kill with one blow." The demon cult elder's eyes were fierce. But when they just entered the restaurant, a powerful coercion came instantly. In an instant, the 8 men in black robes knelt directly to the ground, their 7 orifices bleed, their eyes rounded, and their bodies were completely devoid of breath. And this coercion was completely covered inside the restaurant, and the outside world was still swaying with drizzle, and no one could detect it. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's thought power only covered the restaurant part. Except for the elders of the demon sect, all the others perished. Jian Wushuang also drew his sword and rushed downstairs, while shouting angrily, "Do it!" The 3 started the siege from different angles. The demon sect elder also suddenly came over at this time. The feeling that he had given him before was countless times stronger than any strong man he had seen, but that feeling was only for a moment. When he woke up, he noticed the 3-party encirclement and suppression. Although he was surprised by the pressure just now, he also resisted instinctively. His sleeves shook, causing Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang to retreat a few meters. Only Jian Wushuang charged forward. "Die!" Jian Wushuang's brows erupted with powerful pressure again, but this time, the effect was not as obvious as the first time. It only made the demon sect elder a little scared, but Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang had just been shaken back, and he was allowed to pick up again. Confidence. Facing Jian Wushuang's sword tip, he put his hands together and stopped directly. Kindness. The demon sect elder suddenly breathed a lot, and he was about to run away. Because the breath just now made him feel so strong that he couldn't even exert his full combat power. But in the face of the siege of the 3 people, it was easily broken. What happened? The source of that powerful breath made him shudder, but he was facing 3 ordinary Jindan cultivators. At this time, Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang rushed again. And Jian Wushuang also took the opportunity to get rid of the elders of the demon sect, and his body rose from the ground, and the pressure of consciousness swept away again. But conscious coercion, only the first time it can play a miraculous effect. The more it goes, the less effective it is. Ukanshu. Calm. The demon sect elder has also understood that the pressure just now may not come from the super strong, but from some kind of treasure. In an instant his eyes were hot. If such a powerful treasure was in his hands, he would be completely invincible in the golden core stage, and even rival Huang. It was originally just an ordinary hunting mission, but he did not expect to encounter such an opportunity, which made his heart burn with greed. 3 xiaoshaos. He clasped both hands, palmed again, and a rush of lightning exploded immediately. The whole restaurant was shocked. Not good. Jian Wushuang raised his sword and slashed away the thunderbolt. It was not the thunder that threatened him, but the sound that would definitely cause Zhangxianhui. That's what he worries about. As for the people in the restaurant, they had been forcibly hypnotized by him using his mind power for a long time, and now they are all slumbering. Even if the restaurant collapses, they will not wake up. Xiang Yang, you too go to pester him, give me time to breathe. Jian Wushuang's breathing was a little short. can't be too big, he wants to burn his own thought power to kill the opponent. But in this way, his mind power will be greatly reduced. This is his current means of self-protection. When he was in Shanghai County, he had escaped the catastrophe by relying on the power of his thoughts to meet those demon powerhouses. Although it is much stronger now than it was then, this is Taiyan City, the core of the entire Eastern land cultivation world. Of course, not to be careless. In case of attracting super powerhouses, they may fall to their knees. Therefore, until it is a last resort, he will not burn his mind power to fight, even if it is to escape. Thought power is strong enough, invisible and colorless. As long as he wants to leave, no one can find it, but Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang will give up. Chapter 6293. Chapter 6293. Burning Mind Power. Jian Wushuang naturally would not give up the two of them, and would definitely go all out. With my spiritual sense, killing you for a Jindan period is a waste. He raised one hand, condensed a finger of light and pointed it directly at the center of his eyebrows. Open, hum. At the center of the eyebrows, a gap slowly expanded, revealing the golden eyes hidden between the eyebrows. Kill, boom. The eyes between the eyebrows instantly burst out with a powerful breath. This breath is formless and colorless, because this is a conscious attack. If you want to use this method to attack the enemy, your own strength is not enough. In this small world, even a monk in the realm of gods could not do it, because the monks of the small world simply do not use such advanced means. For example, a cultivator in the realm of the gods, to kill a baby cultivator, only needs a flying sword, or a palm and a punch, and it can be killed. Why use conscious attack? The key is that they can only use ordinary conscious coercion, and can't figure out conscious attack at all. This is the secret method of consciousness created by Jian Wushuang's countless thoughts. First of all, conscious coercion must be a threat to the same level. If there is no threat to the same level, then there is no need to cultivate. When Jian Wushuang was in Daojun, he became invincible Daojun, and he had some innate techniques for conscious coercion. Later, he inadvertently created conscious attacks, but he had no chance to use it in the outside world. Because the strength breakthrough is too fast, and this method cannot be used, but I didn't expect it to be used in this small world. Fortunately, the crisis was resolved. The conscious attack killed the flexibility of the demon sect elder, while the body was still standing, doing the previous movement. Died. There was an incredible look in Jiang Shang's eyes. Even Xiang Yang is the same. He was originally the Lord of the Universe, and he was also the Lord of the Nine Tribulations realm universe. But he couldn't achieve the same level of thought power, but Jian Wushuang could do it, and he could kill the demon elder with burning thought power. Xiang Yang's heart was shocked. It's not bad that he is a super strong among the universe gods. But he didn't know that Jian Wushuang had not survived the divine tribulation. Don't be stunned, hurry up and clean up, get rid of those corpses first, let's go out of the city at dawn. Jian Wushuang's tone was exhausted. Originally, he hadn't thought about going out of the city, but now, he needs to go out to avoid the limelight. So get out of town. In fact, the danger in the city is not as good as outside the city. It is estimated that outside the city, if you don't run too far, you will still encounter trouble, but at that time, Jian Wushuang's mind power is released, you can explore the surrounding 30 kilometers, and even cover up the breath of the three people, it will not be easily discovered. It's just a pity that there are countless treasures in Taiyan City. He can't do it now. One is lack of money, and the other is because of identity. If you get an effective identity, with his means, within a year, you can get a batch of treasures that break through the golden core stage. By that time, he will become an infant transformation cultivator, and he will be able to completely control the Eastern Earth cultivation realm, directly plundering all the treasures of heaven and earth, and quickly becoming the #1 powerhouse in this world. At that time, his mind power was probably released to a terrifying level, enough to shatter the void and go to the upper realm. But now I have to leave. Jian Wushuang was a little sighed, and then looked at Xiang Yang again, a little annoyed. His little concubine, why don't you want him? If Xing Luo led him, he would be able to regain all his strength very quickly, and breaking this world would not be a problem at that time. Ugh! He sighed slightly in his heart, and just as he was about to turn around and enter the room to rest, his brows furrowed. A breath is approaching the restaurant, and the strength is very strong, stronger than the elders of the demon sect. It is close to the level of the master of Fengjue. He is definitely a super master in the Jindan stage. Of the strong. Hide quickly, there is an unfamiliar atmosphere approaching. After Jian Wushuang reminded, his mind power was directly withdrawn, and his figure also hid back in the room. Through the bed, he could only observe it with the naked eye. On the street, a middle-aged man with a jug hanging from his waist and a long knife on his back was running towards the restaurant at a very fast speed. This person is exactly the breath that Jian Wushuang felt before. Yangshao, the Golden Crow Guard in the Immortal Slaying Guard, has 6 copper coins on his chest. A copper coin is a bronze snake guard. The 3 copper coins already belonged to the elites. Among the Immortal Slaying Guards, they belonged to the Silver Snake Guards. They were generally responsible for inspecting the inner city. A team of 3 could rival the cultivators of the Jindan period. On top of the Silver Snake Guards, there are also Golden Snake Guards, all of them in the Golden Core stage. Above is the Golden Crow Guard. This is the most noble type of patrol guard among the Immortal Slaying Guards. Even within the Imperial City, there were only 2 teams of Golden Crow Guards, one bright and one dark. However, in the palace, there are many scattered Golden Crow Guards, generally only responsible for the Imperial City or even the palace. When Yang Shao came to the outer city once, the 2 copper snake guards were surprised, but he didn't expect that Yang Shao had been hiding in the outer city before he left. He even secretly followed the holy sect group. So chased to the restaurant. The breath disappeared here. As soon as Yang Shao's figure fell, he held the knife alertly. Although his strength is very strong, his psychic power is still in the Golden Core stage, and he cannot detect the previous fighting atmosphere at all. So it can only be captured with the naked eye. But this also left a huge hidden danger for Jian Wushuang. Drizzle. The sound of rain hitting the door of the inn was not the sound of salsa, but the sound of hitting the wood. The salsa was because the rain hit the paper on the door. But now it can't be heard. As the Golden Crow Guard of the Immortal Slaying Guard, Yang Shao is so sensitive in his thinking, and his eyes are also looking at the doorman of the restaurant. The sticky paper on the row of gatehouses had long since shattered, so all he heard was the clack of rain on the wooden door. Just a glance at the problem. This restaurant is normal during the day. Yang Shao's heart moved, and he slowly leaned over with his footsteps. Jian Wushuang, who was standing in front of the window on the 2nd floor, did not expect to expose himself because of such a trivial matter. The pasted paper was shattered by the demon sect elder earlier, but he forgot about it. This is over. It seems that I can only run hard. Jian Wushuang was shocked, and he was about to greet Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang to slip away from the other side first. At that time, even if he encounters the other Immortal Slaying Guards, he will be able to avoid them one by one with his mind power. Even if he cannot pass the gate of the city, he will still have to wait until dawn. No way, Yang Shao has already entered the restaurant. There are still traces of fighting on the ground. Even if they go to sleep, the entire restaurant will be taken down by Zhan Xianwei early tomorrow morning. Walk. Jian Wushuang wrapped the 2 of them with his thoughts, and slipped out of the windowsill lightly. Relying on the power of thought, he can escape the inspection of the Golden Core stage. Chapter 6294. But he couldn't hide from the copper snakes slashing the immortal guards in the open and secret. These Immortal Slaying Guards can also inspect with the naked eye. Once it is discovered, it will play a series of roles, and when the time comes, the city will be full of storms, which is not what Jian Wushuang wants to see. So he took Jiang Shang and Xiang Yang directly to the inner city. Even ready to go to the Imperial City. Because there are Immortal Slaying Guards at the Jindan stage everywhere, most of the cultivators in the Jindan stage will not be foolish to inspect with the naked eye, but sit cross-legged and cover the surrounding area within 100 zhang with the power of thought, and sometimes walk around in a circle. Explore with your mind. In their opinion, this method is more efficient. Jian Wushuang found the loophole and took the two to the imperial city. There is no way out of the city, they are all idiots with naked eyes, and they are easy to be found with two people in the middle of the night. His mind power is not enough to make the three of them become transparent people. Simply entered the imperial city. Played a dark under the lights. As for the noble Golden Crow guard, Yang Shao, among the immortal slaying guards, he was still checking everyone in the restaurant one by one at the moment. It's just that he checked around, but the knife didn't come out once. Are all ordinary people? Yang Shao frowned. He rushed over from other places. It took less than a stick of incense. He firmly believed that the other party could not leave so quickly. Turning to the backyard, searching around, only 10 bodies were found in the end. One of them was stalked before, he didn't know, and the rest were the group he had seen. The moment he saw these corpses, cold sweat broke out from Yang Shao's back. Although he is stronger than the demon elder, but these people are working together, even he has no confidence to defeat the opponent, let alone kill, and he is still killing Xianwei with his eyelids down in an instant. What a master! Baby! This was Yang Shao's first thought, and he immediately crushed the highest-ranking token in the immortal slaying guard. The headquarters of Zhan Xianwei, which was set up in the depths of the palace, received a call for help from Yang Shao in an instant. It was Yang Shao who crushed the token, and the whole city activated the highest alert. Soon the entire immortal slaying guard took action. Because it was a rescue message from the Golden Crow guard of the 6 copper coins, it must have encountered a threat from Huaying, which was enough for all the immortal slaying guards in Tian City to deal with it. Although, in the immortal slaying guard, there are also hidden powerhouses in the transformation stage. But they knew better that if a cultivator in the infant transformation stage became mad in Tian City, he would need several cultivators in the infant transformation stage to stop him. Therefore, the highest alert will be activated. Of course, this alert came from the imperial city. The inner city is second, and it doesn't matter how many deaths the outer city is. On the contrary, the same is true of the palace. Not much has changed. The eunuch stood in front of the palace gate as always and yawned. It was not until a team of immortal slaying guards arrived that the little in front of the hall raised his spirits. Lord Chang. The little just bowed his hands slightly. Regardless of his young age, he is a close minister of His Majesty in a python robe. Even the absolute high-ranking Chang Feng, in the immortal slaying guard, should be treated with a smile. Eunuch Wang, please report to Eunuch Han, I have something important to report. Chang Feng kept his posture low, and even took out a gold bar and secretly stuffed it into the little eunuch. The little kicked into his cuff, looked up and saw that Lord Chang was here with several golden snake guards, and knew that it was a major event that could not be delayed, so he nodded and hurriedly entered the hall. This is the Hall of Mental Cultivation, where the Emperor Tang practiced Taoism. Since the Yi Wang forced the palace 3 years ago, he suffered a lot, and after returning to Debao, he has been immersed in Taoism. Even when he reached the infant transformation stage, he has not let up. With the support of the entire Tang dynasty, after breaking through for 3 years, he has entering the middle stage of infant transformation. This speed can be said to be a miracle in the cultivation world. Kindness. In the hall, an old standing with low eyebrows slowly raised his head and looked at the prince who walked in. Han Gong, Lord Chang has something important to discuss with you. Eunuch Wang lowered his head, facing Chang Feng, who had the power of life and death in Tian City. He could not change his face and even get some benefits, but facing Eunuch Han in front of him, Director Han, he was indifferent. Dare to breathe. In the entire palace, apart from that His Majesty, even His Majesty couldn't put him under such great pressure. This is a powerful figure in the palace, and even in the entire eastern land. Known as the first powerhouse in the palace. Even if Zhan Xianwei is also set up in the palace, there are many masters in it, and they are not as good as the big in front of him. A eunuch, who can be an extremely noble minister, and be awarded a title by a duke, has already explained everything. Well, let's go. Han Chongjiu, the head of the big house, said in a sullen tone. The prince did not dare to urge him. Even if there were rebels coming from outside, he would not dare to urge the prince in front of him. After the little went down, Han Chongjio turned around and entered the inner hall. After a while, he came out again and went straight to the outside of the hall. Lord Chang Fengchang, who was waiting outside the hall, did not complain at all, but saluted respectfully. Han Gong. The golden snake guards in the back row also bowed their heads one by one. Han Chongjio didn't lift his eyelids. He stood in front of the hall with his hands behind his back, and said silently, "Your Majesty has already made clear the specific matters. It's just fine for Lord Chang to do his own thing, and the rest is not needed. No need to ask." "Yes." Chang Feng bowed his head and agreed. But there was a grim look in his eyes. After retiring, Lord Chang took several of his subordinates back to Zhan Xianwei, his face ashen. What happened tonight gave him a great sense of crisis. Not because of some mysterious infant transformation master, but because of Shengzong's frequent movements in Tian City. The so-called holy sect is actually a magic sect. It's just that this demon sect is valued by His Majesty, so it has the title of holy sect. This is also to blame for their poor back then, allowing the cultivation sect to invade the imperial power. Originally, this demon sect only relied on the imperial court to get some benefits, but in recent years, it has been frequently in and out of Tian City, especially the demon sect saint, who often goes in and out of the palace. Today, His Majesty, a person who values the demon sect very highly. Some things in Tian City let the demon sect take action instead of killing the immortal guard. Therefore, Chang Feng has a sense of crisis. It's not because of threatening his status, but because of the fact that the sect of cultivating is highly valued. It will eventually lead to a fork in the road, not to mention the importance of the demon religion. Immortal Zhanwei not only inspects Tian City, but also has the function of monitoring the world. Over the years, so many people have died innocently, and Chang Feng's eyes are still not blind. Although the Zhan Xianwei has been shrinking and the scope has reached Tian City, the outside world cannot be concealed. What's more, so many people died, but anyone with a little ability knows it well. The headquarters of Zhan Xianwei is a 7-story tower. The first floor is where the Tong snake guards work. There are many people. The Tong snake guards who can be here are all those who are responsible for filing files and information, and generally do not go out for inspections. Nor will they go to the second floor. Chapter 6295. There are 7 floors and there are grades between each floor. As the leader of the Golden Crow Guard with 6 copper coins, Chang Feng can go directly to the 7th floor. It is towering into the sky, and there are huge floor-to-ceiling windows that are ventilated on all sides, and you can see the entire palace and even the entire Tian City. It is also the tallest building in the entire palace. It can also be seen from this building how much the emperor was highly valued by the original Zhan Xianwei. It's a pity that over the years, the monarchs and ministers have been a little distracted. Chang Feng came to the 7th floor, looked at the burly figure standing by the window, wearing a black cloak, and sighed, "Grand Commander, Your Majesty's intention is to let us leave it alone. You see this matter still want to check?" The stalwart man by the window did not speak, and kept looking out the window. After a while, he said sternly, "Then don't worry about it." But Chang Feng was a little dissatisfied. Facing the Han Palace, facing the sage, he did not dare to play such a small temper. But the great commander who opened up the Immortal Slaying Guard in front of him was like all the masters of the Immortal Slaying Guard. No matter what happened, they didn't dare to hide anything, even emotions. As it is now, Chang Feng is completely natural. The demon sect is rampant, and His Majesty condones it. If it remains the same, I am afraid that the world will be in chaos. This is contrary to the dogma of the late emperor and the ancestors. Before Chang Feng could finish speaking, he was interrupted by the commander. "Enough." The calm commander, when he heard the words of 3 years, his body trembled a little, and he took a deep breath to calm down. "Tell Yang Shao to see me, I will arrange the rest of my own." There was a strange color in the deep eyes of the great commander. Although Chang Feng wanted to say something, he had no choice but to leave. Under the imperial city. Outside the palace. This is the gathering place of the dignitaries of Tian City. It is also the core of the entire dynasty. Most of the masters who can live here are members of the royal family, and some are high-ranking officials of the imperial court. Therefore, most of the imperial city are deep courtyards, and there are very few small courtyards. Even if there are a few small courtyards, they are all people with noble identities. The drizzle swayed and gradually turned into a heavy downpour. In the rainy night, people rushed and the clouds moved. Although Emperor Tang was very indifferent to this matter, Zhang Xianwei did not relax at all, and still inspected the entire imperial city on the highest alert. Whizzing! A line of figures skipped over the roof of a compound. One of the figures paused for a moment. Leave 2 people to focus on guarding the princess mansion. Yes. The 2 figures in black instantly fell and hid in the princess mansion. The rest gradually disappeared in the heavy rain. After they were far away, 3 figures suddenly appeared behind a rockery in the princess mansion. This is a secret road in the rockery. However, it has been abandoned for a long time, and many people in the manor do not even know it, and have even forgotten it, let alone those immortal slaying guards. This is the perfect place to hide. Fortunately, a 5 money gold snake guard also hid here. It happened to be hiding in the same place as Jian Wushuang and the other 3. Brother Wushuang, do you want to kill him? Xianghe? Xiang Yang's eyes are fierce. Jian Wushuang rolled his eyes and said angrily, "Didn't you hear what they said? This is the palace of the princess, so be careful, since he didn't find us." Before the words were finished, Jian Wushuang's complexion sank. Not good. He was the first to take action, and his mind power was condensed into a little bit. Although he had lost a lot of energy due to the previous burning, it was still more than a mistake to deal with a cultivator in the middle stage of Jindan. It was just this move that threatened to be discovered. This is the imperial city, and there may be a cultivator in the infant transformation stage staring at this place secretly. Although the current mind power has already been burned once, it is not a problem to conceal Huaying, but once you start to move, if there is a trace of breath leakage, it may be discovered, and the captured Zhang Xianwei can't be killed, otherwise they will be followed by clues to find their hiding place. So Jian Wushuang wasn't ready to make a move, but the opponent found his position at close range for the first time. This changed the color of Jian Wushuang greatly. A middle-stage Jindan would not be able to detect them, but the other party could detect it, and it was definitely a treasure. Certainly, Jian Wushuang pointed out, and the dim light penetrated the man's eyebrows, directly shocking his soul. Abolish his cultivation first. He gave an order, and Xiang Yang shot instantly. Directly crushed the golden core of the 5-money golden snake guard. Xiang Yang's movements were fast, and in just an instant he broke the opponent's golden pill. Call. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh of relief, waved his hand to signal the 2 to step back, and he walked over alone. Now what do I ask you to say? Just nod when you understand. Standing in the corner, Jin's snake nodded sullenly. His eyes were very empty, as if he was enslaved. This is Jian Wushuang's powerful thought force that shattered the opponent's consciousness, leaving only the memory in the sea of knowledge, so that you can ask the other party what you want to know. It can also ensure that the other party does not die. In this way, it will not be noticed by Zhang Xianwei. However, there is also a drawback. That is, if Zhang Xianwei can't find this person, he will definitely send someone here. Moreover, among the remaining 2 immortal slaying guards, the golden snake guards only controlled one, and for the sake of safety, Jian Wushuang had to deal with the other one. Is there any cultivator in the infant transformation stage in Zhang Xianwei? Jian Wushuang asked the first question. He was also very curious about whether there was a cultivator in the infant transformation stage in this immortal slaying guard. The dumb golden snake guard replied like a puppet, "Yes, the great commander is a fake infant monk." Fake baby? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. If it was a baby transformation, he would still be calm. After all, there are many late Jindan monks in this immortal slaying guard, and it is normal to have a baby transformation, but he didn't expect that the other party's chief commander was only a fake baby. The fake baby monk is different from the baby monk. At least the combat power and realm are much different. It's better to say it's a fake baby, it's better to say it's a dead infant monk, because the nascent soul has not been formed, and it has become a dead infant. Generally speaking, such monks will die violently, but preparing treasures in advance to maintain their shortness of breath can save their lives, but also lose body repair. To be able to condense dead babies, then the other party must have some kind of peculiar inheritance. This kind of inheritance is of course nothing to Jian Wushuang. He has 10,000 ways to solve it, but it is obviously not easy for a mortal monk to obtain this inheritance. Jian Wushuang asked a series of questions about the great commander, such as his age and characteristics, and what kind of exercises he practiced. Originally, I thought that it was a big net to catch fish and asked more questions, whether he could answer it or not. Unexpectedly, he really asked a lot of questions. Chapter 6296. Chapter 6296 Jiang Shang? This Grand Commander was originally an orphan, and he entered the palace to purify his body by accident. Because of his special physique, he was born to practice. The emperors of the Tang dynasty all practiced, but they all lived short lives. Many of them who had cultivated in the later stages of Jindan ended up in the practice. Only by becoming a Huaying can you live longer, but not for long. For example, some babies can live for thousands of years, but Emperor Tang only has a lifespan of 200 or 300 years. The reason for this is unknown. In order to stabilize the imperial power, every Tang emperor would cultivate his own cronies, a group of powerful and mysterious practitioners. Zhan Xianwei also came into being. However, the predecessor was not called Zhan Xianwei because the name was too exaggerated, which would arouse the disgust of the cultivation sect. It was not until the Emperor Tang was forced into the palace 3 years ago and became a great treasure before he changed his name to Zhan Xianwei. Since then, the supervision of the world's sects has become more and more strict. Jian Wushuang carefully pondered the information he had obtained. That Grand Commander was a powerful minister of the former emperor, who later changed his power and became a close minister of the new emperor. He was very powerful. Although he was a fake infant monk, he was able to fight against a surprise attack by a different king 3 years ago. It can protect the current His Majesty to successfully break through the siege, and then help the current Tang Emperor to return to Debao. So much work, so powerful. Jian Wushuang couldn't help but get serious. Walk. The current form is still ahead. Because of Jiang Shang, he had already suspected that he was being targeted by the Tang Emperor. It's just that he was a little curious why Tang Huang did not ask Zhan Xianwei to arrest them, but a group of demon monks. There is also a reminder of Baoguang Temple. The last question, how much do you know about Jianghua in the Southern Heaven Realm? Jian Wushuang couldn't help but ask this question. This also moved Jiang Shang behind him, and he was also a little curious. How could the smart Jiang Shang not be aware of the current situation? As soon as he entered Taiyan City, he was reminded by Master Fengjue of Baoguang Temple to leave Taiyan City, and then was assassinated by the demon sect, which must have an indescribable relationship with her life experience. Moreover, she had an inexplicable feeling about Baoguang Temple, which made her suspect that Jianghua or her mother might be inextricably linked with the Tang dynasty. After all, the mother herself came from the Tang dynasty, and she was not an ordinary person in the Tang dynasty. She was probably related to the royal family. The dumb golden snake guard was stunned for a moment, then slowly said, I know a little bit. I was ordered to go to Jiang country to find a female fairy. Her name is Jiang Shang. Jiang Shang. Jian Wushuang couldn't believe it and immediately said excitedly, What happened later? Did not find. Jiang Shang, Jiang Shang? Jian Wushuang gasped, looked back at Jiang Shang, and 2 figures suddenly appeared in his mind. One is Jiang Shang and the other is Jiang Shang. He has been mistaken all the time. Jiang Shang is not the Jiang Shang he once knew, it is probably her mother. It is normal for the two to look exactly the same, and the totems on their bodies can also be inherited by blood. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang's breath reversed. Jiang Shang was a little overwhelmed when he saw the strange look in his eyes. Why are you looking for Jiang Shang? How much do you know about Jiang Shang? Jian Wushuang asked 2 more questions in a row. Xiang Yang, who was next to him, was a little confused. He didn't understand this, so he wondered, is this Jiang Shang confused with Jiang Shang? You shut up. Jian Wushuang glanced back at Xiang Yang. Xiang Yang was so frightened that he immediately shut up. Do not know. Jin Shiwei replied in a dull tone. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes slightly, and when he opened his eyes again, his figure suddenly flickered, and he went straight to the backyard of the princess mansion, raised his hand and grabbed another golden snake guard. He directly controlled the other party with his mind power, and asked the question just now again. Unfortunately, the answer is still not known. Jian Wushuang had no choice but to place the two of them in the dark secret passage. At this time, Jiang Shang couldn't help but said, Senior, do you know my mother? Is her name Jiang Shang? Jiang Shang nodded apologetically after hearing this, because she hadn't told Jian Wushuang. Because the mother's secret in her heart is more important, even the closest people have never mentioned it. Jian Wushuang didn't blame him. After all, it was someone else's private matter. He just asked curiously, why, do you have the same surname as your mother? I don't know either, maybe it's a coincidence. Jiang Shang shook his head. This is just a curious question. What Jian Wushuang is more concerned about is where is Jiang Shang. Will the other party know her? Or do you know what's going on in this world? He is getting more and more curious about this place now. Maybe this time he didn't come in vain, maybe it was his chance to cross the gods, but now he was stuck in the lower realm, he couldn't be in a hurry, he had to explore slowly. At this moment, the mentality has naturally undergone some changes, coming from mortals and returning to mortals, using this as a starting point to sprint for the calamity. Now what he has to do is to sprint to the original realm, that is, to restore the full strength of the deity, and then go to the gods. I hope so. Jian Wushuang meditated silently in his heart. The rainy night continued. There are only sporadic lights in the princess mansion. As for the place where Jian Wushuang hides, it is a deserted garden. Few people come during the day, let alone at night, and the servants of the princess mansion are rumored that this garden is haunted recently. I often hear someone crying, and it's still a male ghost. The one crying is a miserable one. And today is no exception. Kindness. Jian Wushuang frowned, and the figure came out of the rockery like a ghost. It wasn't that he heard the cry, but he entered the back garden leisurely and quietly. He was dressed in white with a rich face, but there was a sadness in his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang recognized the identity of the other party, and said in surprise, Is it him? In the entire princess mansion, the person with the highest psychic power and luck. Apart from that, it was the princess. If luck was able to suppress the royal princess, this person was also the concubine. I just didn't expect that the concubine would come to this remote back garden in the middle of the night. Jian Wushuang is not worried that the other party will enter the secret passage in the rockery. He is not so unlucky. The secret passage has been abandoned for a long time. I am afraid that this concubine does not know the secret passage behind the rockery. Sure enough, the other party just walked under a peach tree and turned over the roots of the tree for a while with a lantern, as if he was looking for something, but unfortunately he didn't find it. Shattered about something. It's just so far away that no one else can hear it. However, Jian Wushuang's powerful thoughts clearly captured the opponent's voice. Impossible, Chai Jiao said he would check it out for me. The concubine was thinking about it while looking for it with a lantern. In a hurry, he used his hands to pick up the black soil. The small hands with thin skin and tender meat saw blood in a while. Chapter 6297. Wan Dao Jianzun. His fingers were connected to his heart, but the pain didn't stop him. Instead, he lost the lantern in a frenzy and sat down directly, screaming in pain. Fortunately, this garden is very large and far away from the yard where people live, so it's hard to hear it if you don't listen carefully. Jian Wushuang looked a little ridiculous, and his thoughts isolated him from all around him. He was not ready to pay attention to the other party, but he didn't want the other party's voice to attract the attention of outsiders, so he cut off the sound of this place. But when he just closed his eyes, he seemed to think of the Chai Jiao that the other party just said. Isn't this Chai Jiao the golden snake guard he caught first? No wonder the other party will enter this rockery, and the secret road behind the rockery is very familiar. It turns out that he knows the concubine, and he often comes here. No wonder he is so familiar. Thinking that the concubine was looking for the news brought by Chai Jiao, Jian Wushuang asked aloud, "Do you know the concubine?" N. Chai Jiao nodded stiffly. Xiang Yang next to him said with a wicked smile, "This guy won't have an affair with the concubine." Ah! Jiang Shang's face turned red, but he had also heard of Long Yang's goodness, so he rarely bowed his head shyly. Jian Wushuang sighed and sighed in his heart. No wonder Xinghua disliked Xiang Yang. This guy looks like a gentleman on the surface, but he is full of male thieves and female prostitutes in his stomach. Rolling his eyes, he then asked, "What's your relationship with the concubine, and what did he entrust you to inquire about?" "Friend, I often gamble and owe a lot of money outside. It was the concubine who helped me pay off the gambling debt. I would also help the concubine to do some trivial matters. One of them was to help the concubine to inquire about a person's condition. She was the concubine's friend before he got the title, and a month ago I found out that the other party was ruined by a group of sons and brothers. The concubine was furious and asked me to investigate a few murderers. Originally it was just to have fun, but it was so coincidental." Jian Wushuang and the three of them suddenly widened their eyes and asked together, "Is that friend Iz?" "Yes." Chai Jiozhong nodded. "It's so coincidental. The girl he met at the pier and the person who asked him to find it turned out to be the concubine who was squatting on the ground and crying." "Alas!" Jian Wushuang sighed. "Originally, I wanted to find the heartless person and kill each other with a sword, but I didn't expect that the two were really in love, and this concubine might have something to hide. To cry so bitterly, it must be deep in love, and it hurts in my heart." Jian Wushuang took out an oiled paper letter from his arms, and just wanted to hand it to Chai Jiao to let the other party hand it over to the concubine. But on second thought, he is currently so passive in Taiyan City, he just doesn't have a stable foothold. Perhaps it is possible to use this consort to hide in the imperial city. Thinking of this, Jian Wushuang held the envelope between his index fingers and stood up voluntarily. He wants to give it to the other party himself. Show up directly, without any hesitation. Swish. His body was suspended more than a foot above the ground, and Jian Wushuang looked down at the concubine, Qin Yuan, in front of him. "You!" Qin Yuan was taken aback and quickly stepped back. Jian Wushuang threw the letter to Qin Yuan and said sternly, "Don't be afraid, I'm just entrusted by others to deliver this letter to you." "Letter?" Qin Yuan looked at the oil paper envelope thoughtfully. At first he thought of court disputes. Above the court, all the dukes, every word and word, can kill. Beneath the courtroom, swords form a forest, one step at a time, like walking on thin ice. Even if he is the concubine. So he thought of Jian Wushuang as a follower of a certain big man. This is to communicate with him privately. But when he picked up the oil paper envelope, he felt a sense of unease in his heart. Looking at the yellowed oil paper, my thoughts seem to have returned to the summer of 3 years. In a certain village in Shanghai County, there is a small stream. On the shore, there is a man and a woman, talented and beautiful. Qin Yuan, after you go to the capital, will you come back? Yes, because I promised your parents that I would marry you, and of course I would come back. But it will take more than a year for you to go. I can write to you. But I can't write. Then use drawing. But I don't have money to send letters. The young scholar flipped through the book, but stared at the girl and said, "Then draw everything you want to say to me, and hand it to me when I come back. No, over time, the paper will rot. Use oil paper." 3 years at a glance. Holding the oil paper envelope, Qin Yuan felt like a sting in his throat, like a thorn on his back, and his scalp shook. He thought about it but couldn't believe it. That girl is just a fishing village girl. How could there be a Shangxian who can entrust letters? But when he opened the oil paper envelope and saw the crooked writing on it, his eyes instantly turned red and bloodshot spread. Ah. Purple. Qin Yuan covered his mouth and tried his best to maintain his mood and form, but he was still too heartbroken to straighten up. In the world of 80,000 words, Only love words hurt people the most. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart, but on the surface he was still ready to scare the other party. Chen Yuan, you heartless man, it's a pity that Miss Azzy is waiting for you at the pier all day, but you are the concubine in Tian City, and you are worthy of Miss Azzy? His voice was like a bell, as if it is to teach juniors in general. Chen Yuan nodded like a chicken eating rice, and said in a hoarse voice, "It's me who's wrong, it's me who failed him. Since you are clear, then prepare to die. Miss Azzy once saved my life at sea. Today, I helped her kill you, a heartless man, and then go and avenge her." After Jian Wushuang finished speaking, he drew his sword, ready to kill each other. But what he didn't expect was that the other party didn't shout or scream, so he held his neck and prepared to wait for death. This will make Jian Wushuang unable to fix it. Although Chen Yuan is indeed deeply in love with Z, he is so calm in the face of death, which makes him a little impressed. Since this set doesn't work, let's change it. Jian Wushuang didn't plan to kill Chen Yuan at first. The long sword was placed on the opponent's neck, but there was no killing intent in his eyes. "Senior, let's do it." Chen Yuan twisted his neck, waiting for death. Faced with this situation, Jian Wushuang naturally had a backup plan. Looking at Chen Yuan, he said solemnly, Azzy really didn't see the wrong person, and he wasn't even afraid of death. It seems that you never went back in the capital. Presumably there is another reason. I just tested you. If you are greedy for life and afraid of death, I will kill you with one sword, and then go to find the murderer of Miss Azzy. Now that you are a man, I will spare your life. But Azzy's death, I can't let go of it for the rest of my life. Chen Yuan's face was like a withered smile. He didn't have any joy for the rest of his life. Instead, he was a little disappointed. Just now, he was really ready to die. Jian Wushuang can understand this kind of mood, and the next step is his superb comfort and guidance, which quickly shaped him into a stalwart image of an overseas immortal who has just entered the world. And when Z rescued him, he also explained the loss of strength in detail, so that the logic would be smooth and not make the other party suspect. Chapter 6298. Don't look at the concubine now crying bitterly, without any pretense and shrewdness, but Jian Wushuang knows that such a ruthless character who can endure is not afraid of death. As long as his emotions are stable, he will consider his identity, origin, and purpose. Therefore, Jian Wushuang must prepare the ground in advance, and he must also say that he does not know much about the Tang dynasty, and he is here to make breakthroughs. At the same time, he exaggerated his own cultivation. Jin Dan is invincible. I came here to break through the cultivation base and be promoted to infant transformation. The cultivator of the Jin Dan stage is already a big man, but it is nothing to the entire Eastern Land Tang dynasty, but to a concubine he is also an immortal, and Jian Wushuang has also become a master of Jin Dan perfection, come here just to break through the baby. Chen Yuan also realized it later. First, he was saddened by Az's death, and then he started to take revenge. The more they chatted under the peach blossom tree, the more speculative they became. You kid looks harmless to humans and animals, but you have such ruthless methods. I didn't even think about it. I thought I would understand if I caught those beasts and beheaded them. Listening to you, I'm going to make the other party full of people. So Jian Wushuang pretended to be surprised. Chen Yuan felt that it was not enough, and said in a cold voice, "It's not a pity for these beasts to die, we must let them despair first when they are alive. I will use all my contacts to destroy several gatekeepers in Shanghai County. I will let them completely disappear like never came to this world." Jian Wushuang looked at Chen Yuan, who was caught in hatred, and wanted to pat the other party's shoulder and say a word. "Young man, you are so angry." It's just that he didn't open his mouth to remind, but nodded and reconsidered. "Vengeance is only happy for me, and I was going to kill those directly. But since you are Miss Az's sweetheart, how to take revenge is up to you. If you need it, you can find me." When Chen Yuan heard it, he quickly persuaded, "Senior, it's better to stay in the mansion. The inspection of the immortal guards in this city is very strict, and my identity is special. I may be in trouble if I want to meet." It's just a little Zhang Xianwei. Who is my opponent other than the big commander? Jian Wushuang stood with his hands down, showing arrogance, but he changed the subject and said, I think this yard is not bad. I will settle down here first, and when the matter of Miss Azzy is resolved, I should prepare for the practice of cultivation. After just mentioning it a few times, Qin Yuan really remembered it in his heart. Although he didn't say it, he had already thought about how to repay him. Although the other party didn't say anything, Jian Wushuang could see what the other party was thinking at a glance, which could not be hidden from him. Okay, you can go back quickly, although I am free in Tian City, but you are different, you are now the concubine. Jian Wushuang said deliberately yin and yang strangely. However, Qin Yuan thought he was angry and said bitterly, I and the princess are only in name, she hangs out with her face all day, and I haven't shouldered shoulders with her for several days, even if I find out that I'm not in the room at night, she won't care. Jian Wushuang was naturally aware of this situation, and he could detect hundreds of people in the princess mansion with a single movement of his will. His figure disappeared in the blink of an eye. Qin Yuan had also seen such an immortal method, and was not surprised. After sorting out his face, he picked up the lantern and walked out of the yard directly. The sky was slightly bright, and the Red Sea swept in from the east, and the pressure of darkness was retreating. The heavy rain also stopped at this moment. In the early morning, when all things held their heads high, the entire Tian city became lively again. As if nothing happened last night. Zhang Xianwei also retreated one by one, but there was no relaxation at the gate of the city. There are 4 gates in and out of Tian city. The first is the Palace Gate, the second is the Imperial Gate, the third is the Official Gate, and the fourth is the City Gate. One layer is stricter than the next. This was all because of the movement made by Jian Wushuang last night, which prevented Zhang Xianwei from slackening. Outside Zhangxianlu, Yang Shao rubbed his eyes and walked out. It's really tiring. Playing chess with the commander is more tiring than patrolling outside. Dragging his tired body, Yang Shao led the horse towards the palace gate. At this time, I happened to meet various officials from the next dynasty. The two sides just had a face-to-face, each with a black face. The of Zhang Xianwei have not yet figured out the destruction of the Jiang country. They are really rubbish and they will only lie in their nests. That's right, if it wasn't for the concubine's personal report today, I wouldn't know that the powerful people of Jiang country have all gone to Shanghai County. Fortunately, they are fugitives. If the army overwhelms the border, wouldn't it delay the war opportunity? Gong Gong Zhu Gong, the more he said, the more serious he wanted to kill Yang Shao on the spot. If it was in the past, Yang Shao would definitely be sarcastic, but now he really can't say it. He could only ignore everyone, and walked out of the palace gate with the whip. On the way, he became more and more angry. Have you all retreated to Tian City from the original supervision of the quartet? Yang Shao couldn't help but sigh. The former Zhang Xianwei was only one of the names in the capital, and he was a supervising official. He was not strict with the curfew and the control of Tian City, but he knew the entire eastern land, and even the southern heaven realm, the northern territory. The glacier has inspectors. But now, Jiang country in the southern heaven realm was destroyed, they didn't know anything, and they didn't send anyone to investigate. Being ridiculed, you can only recognize it by pinching your nose. The sects from all over the eastern land are riding on their heads and pooping without paying any attention, and even helplessly watching His Majesty reuse the people of the demon sect. Chilling. Why is your Majesty like this? The commander's heart is handed over to you. The more Yang Shao thought about it, the more angry he became, but there was nowhere to go. But the counterattack is about to start. He played chess with the commander last night, and he received a special task. Investigate what the Holy Church is doing outside. This is a signal that a counterattack is about to come. Over the years, the demon sect has been rampant, and it is time to pay the price by relying on the court to do all the bad things. And this matter was planned by the great commander behind the scenes. Even His Majesty could not keep the other party. Yang Shao frowned and sneered, went straight to the outside of Tian City. After leaving the city gate, he abandoned his horse. A cultivator at the Jindan stage can do it 1,000 miles in a day, not to mention that Yang Shao is still the best among them. He arrived at Mongshan County, which is thousands of miles away, in just one morning. Small book booth. This place is the first county outside the capital, and it is stationed all year round to guard against the big monsters and barbarians in the northern region. There are often small-scale wars, and dead people are also common. What a strong death chi! As soon as Yang Shao entered Mongshan County, he felt a strong sense of death. That death energy moved him. Even if he fought for years, such a powerful death energy would never appear. And there was a tinge of resentment in it. The deeper he went into Mongshan County, the stronger Yang Shao felt. Chapter 6299. Chapter 6299. Surrounding Stop and Go, walked for 2 days in a row, and strolled around Mongshan County, but Yang Shao didn't even see a figure. In pursuit of that dead energy, he finally entered Mongshan County. At dusk, Mongshan City is booming. Many peddlers and pawns rushed into the city. There are still many northern barbarians rushing into the city with the goods carried by the monsters. Although there is often friction, the mutual market still does not stop, and even sometimes the two sides fight hard, and the business is still going on as usual. Datong sells ordnance, and Baiman sells cattle and sheep iron ore. Both sides are also very tacit, not to do anything to the caravan. Yang Shao, as the 6 coins slaying immortal guard, is not surprised by this. Besides, he is here for the demon sect this time. Chiang sect, it is declared to be a holy fire of gods. In fact, everyone knows that it is a complete demon. No one knows where the Chiang sect is headquartered, but there are several branches, all of which are located in several counties around Datong. That's why Yang Shao entered the city. I originally planned to go to various places to see if I could find some clues before entering the city, but neither of them were seen. Those villages were also extremely desolate, as if they had not been inhabited for a long time. This is a large county that relies on the capital. Tens of thousands of households once migrated, but now there are 10 households and 10 empty houses. Yang Shao felt an inexplicable unease in his heart. The closer he got to the city gate, the more dignified the dead aura became. Go in quickly, the city gate will be closed after a stick of incense, you all have to wait outside for tomorrow. The soldiers guarding the city gate kept urging. But those caravans were still indifferent, even the scattered people were the same, walking with their heads lowered, ignoring them, as if they hadn't heard those words. The alert Yang Shao immediately noticed something was wrong. Caravans are afraid of bandits and demons when they spend the night outside, not to mention those individual tourists. If it were Heisei, the gatekeepers would have been squeezing inside with such a shout. Where can you be so careless? And the shouting soldier seemed to have no idea that his words had no effect, and was still giggling aside. Yang Shao frowned, stopped, muttered silently in his mouth, swiped his fingers towards his eyes, and the golden light appeared. Heaven's eye! Open, hum! His eyes suddenly turned golden, scanning everything in front of him. What? Even though he was the well-informed Yang Shao, he couldn't help but scream. Outside the entire city gate, where is there any living thing? Everything I saw before was a walking corpse. There were large holes in each chest, the face was already rotten, the eyes were hanging on the corners of the mouth, and the eyes were dark. The soldiers who defended the city even turned into skeletons, with only a suit of armor. Could it be that the whole Mongshan County is like this? Yang Shao felt a chill in his heart. If this is the case, I am afraid that the entire Tang dynasty is not much better now. This is the first county outside the capital. Just when Yang Shao was shocked, a row of people in black robes appeared on the tower. The head of the one, wearing a black robe and covering his head, could not see his appearance, but there was a mark of fire on his chest. Don't ask, it's from the Chiang sect. You still found it. The black-robed man sighed. Yang Shao did not panic at all, looked up at the man in black robe and sneered, Little trick, are you fooling the ghost? Yes, it's just fooling you, ghost. The voice fell, and the 9 men in black robes on the city wall started to move in unison. Each is a late stage of Jindan. Every strength is close to Yang Shao. These are the 9 strongest people in Mongshan County, and they are also all the late Jindan powerhouses of Qiang sect in Mongshan County. The 9 people joined forces to besiege Yang Shao together. But the reason why Yang Shao is calm is because he is not afraid. People who are not afraid of the same country. Even the great King Kong Fengjue, master of Baoguang Temple, he has the power to fight, not to mention these small demons. Although it is in the late stage of Jindan, there are various opinions, and the magic power cultivated is only a cultivation technique to improve the realm, and it is not suitable for combat at all. Yang Shao took out a long spear and made a full circle. The terrifying combat power directly scared the 3 black-robed men back. This Yang Shao is really scary. It's not a loss to be the strongest in the Golden Crow Guards comparable to Chang Feng. Even so, he can't get out of Mongshan County today. Kill! The 9 people surrounded him again, each using different means, trying to kill Yang Shao on the spot. The battle outside the city shocked the birds and beasts in the jungle. A crow also called a few times in cooperation with the branches, raised its head and leaked red eyes, looked at the battle scene, flapped its wings and flew away. Tian City, the immortal slaying tower in the palace. On the top floor, the great commander is still aback. On the originally quiet top floor, the breeze floated, and a black mist condensed into a human shape, and said in a hoarse voice, "Master, Yang Shao and the people of Qiang sect fought, and they are likely to die. Kindness." The Grand Commander standing by the window put his hands in the cloak, and just gave a soft sigh, as if he had already understood the matter. "Can you save his life?" The figure in the black mist asked cautiously. The Great Commander turned his head slightly and said calmly, "Our Majesty is the least willing to suffer losses. If we want to destroy his Qiang sect, we will have to lose some manpower, so that he can better balance himself. My subordinate understands." The black mist slowly dissipated. The palace, the hall of mental cultivation. Duke Han was not in the hall today, but was guarding outside the hall. Because a big man came to the hall tonight. Even he had to bow his head and wait outside the door. "Kindness." Han Gong frowned, feeling someone approaching, and said in a hoarse voice, "What is it, let you run in person?" An old man wearing a black robe suddenly appeared in front of the hall. His eyes were waxy white, his face was like a haggard, and he had no expression, even his voice was like a puppet. "The matter of Mongshan County can't be covered." "What?" The always calm Duke Han widened his eyes and frowned. "Your Qiang sect has arranged 9 late Jindans, so can Yang Shao escape? Besides, there is also a statue in the city." Yang Shao concealed his strength, and now his strength is no longer under Fengjue. After the white-eyed old man finished speaking, he turned his head to look inside the hall, and said dully, "Hurry up and inform your Majesty, it's not easy to fool the immortal Zhanwei." After saying that, the white-eyed old man turned and left. Han Gong looked at the back of the other party and gritted his teeth, but he could only turn around and enter the hall. In the dimly lit hall, 2 figures sat opposite each other. "I know the matter. You go to Zhangxianli yourself and ask the old guy what he wants. As long as he can stop his mouth, I will give it." Han Gong retreated after hearing the sound. Tang Huang, who was wearing a Taoist robe, sighed, unable to see his face in the dark. The man in the opposite seat said with a half-smile, "Why, you can't even restrain your own subordinates, how about I get rid of him for you? Do you think this is child's play? Whoever wants to die can die." Tang Huang's face changed, and he said in a deep voice, "This old guy is a close minister of the late emperor, and the forces he has cultivated are planted in the entire eastern land. Even if he has lost a lot of wings over the years, I can't do it now if I want to move to him. If it was 3 years ago, I might have shot him, but I will never forget the lessons from 3 years ago." Chapter 6300, Wan Dao Jianzun Chapter 6300 Material Crystallization. It seems that her death has indeed changed your temperament. The figure on the opposite side slowly got up, walked to the window and stopped, then smiled lightly. "The current progress is still too slow, you have to hurry up, or Daluo will come, and you will not be able to meet your requirements." Several branches of Qiang sect are constantly gathering, and they will soon be able to gather enough. There will be a batch of immortal essence tonight, and I will trouble the immortal master later. Tang Huang actually bowed to the man at this moment, and his expression was extremely respectful. Chopping Immortal Tower. Chang Feng took Han Gong up to the top floor, glanced at the great commander, and voluntarily retreated. Yang Shao's affairs are not what I want. I can't control it, and I don't want to control it. If you have the ability, go out to the city and kill him in person. I want stop it. When Duke Han's expression changed, he didn't even offer any conditions, and the always domineering commander of the Immortal Slaying Guard was simply subdued. For a while, he was a little untenable and said uncertainly, "Really? Have I ever told a lie?" The chief commander sneered. The two had nothing to talk about, and they had already got the answer they wanted, and Duke Han disappeared directly into the Immortal Slaying Tower. The figure flew out of the city. Intercept Yang Shao. It's just that he didn't understand a little in his heart. Why did this great commander do this? What does it do for him? With such an opportunity, even if he didn't trip over the entire Qiang sect, he would at least kill a few unsightly people. He didn't expect any conditions, so he agreed directly. The thoughtful Duke Han became more and more confused, but when he just walked out of the third city gate, he sensed a group of monks from the Qiang sect, and he suddenly understood. Not good. At this moment, 9 teams of Qiang sect cultivators entered the imperial city in batches. But when they just entered the imperial city, hundreds of auras suddenly appeared around them. All of them were cultivators of Jindan period. There are also 2 teams of Jin Wei personally shot. "Ha, it's you who are waiting." Chang Feng fell from the sky, squinted and glanced at the people in the Qiang sect, and shouted angrily, "Take all of them, dare to resist, stand up." Yes. Hundreds of Golden Snake Guards and dozens of Golden Crow Guards shot out instantly. When Duke Han came back, he realized that it was too late. This battle shocked many people. At the same time, Duke Han was amazed by the great commander's handwriting and his ability to cover up so many Immortal Slaying Guards' aura. Tonight's wind and rain even bigger. The princess mansion was full of singing and dancing. The back garden where Jian Wushuang was hiding was still dark, but he was very satisfied. He was able to stabilize in Tian City, and by the way, use Chen Yuan to relieve the cultivation world of the eastern land, and then there will naturally be a treasure hunt. At the moment he is playing with a black square. Material crystallization, is it possible that it was left behind when the comprehension world was broken? Jian Wushuang had doubts in his heart. This is what he found on Zhan Xianwei. Now 2 days have passed, and he threw the 2 immortal sword guards into the street. He thought that the princess mansion would have to be searched, but after 2 days no one came to search. Just now, he felt the turmoil in the outside world again. Presumably, the city of Tian is really not peaceful, so he can't care about him. So I turned to study material crystallization. The thought power that burned last time has been restored, and he is not afraid of infant transformation now, so he is so confident. The power in this material crystal is really not small, enough for me to reach the golden core consummation, but just relying on the power in the material alone cannot make me turn into an infant. Jian Wushuang's heart moved, holding the crystal in one hand, unscrupulously swallowing the violent power inside. The power of the material world is still very powerful. Just such a small piece of 2 or 3 caddies can make him reach the golden core consummation. If you get 100,000 caddies, it is enough to be invincible in the world. And this kind of swallowing method, only he can do it, others can't do it at all, even Xiang Yang can't do it. A little golden snake guard actually has such a treasure, and it's just used to hide his qi? What a waste of money! Jian Wushuang was very satisfied with the material crystals that had been absorbed cleanly. If there is 1, there are 2, and maybe there are people who have material crystals on their bodies. This is much more useful than those heaven and earth treasures. Brother Wushuang, you have developed this time, and you have become a complete golden core, and you can get me 1 to absorb at any time. Xiang Yang stared greedily at the absorbed material crystal, his eyes almost popping out. He saw with his own eyes that Jian Wushuang's breath improved a lot in just one stick of incense, and he was very envious. Jian Wushuang threw the crystals away and said indifferently, "You can't absorb it. This is a unique secret method I created at the beginning, although the strength is gone, but I still remember the reason clearly. As long as there are 2 more pieces, I will. If I can transform into a baby, no one in this Tang dynasty can stop me, and the treasures of heaven and earth are not just for you to choose." "That's right, you're invincible, which means I'm invincible, huh? I'm really looking forward to the moment when you regain your full strength." Xiang Yang looked envious. He has seen how powerful Jian Wushuang is when he regains his full strength. It's just a pity that what he saw was not Jian Wushuang's deity. If Jian Wushuang's deity appeared, this world would not be able to stop it, and it would have been smashed with a single sword. Jian Wushuang also smiled and said the most domineering words in the most indifferent tone. "The moment I return to the peak, I will make this world regret it was created." The next day it was just dawn. Outside the palace of the princess, the carriage was prepared early. The concubine went to court every day. Although he lived in the imperial city, it was still more than 10 kilometers away, so he naturally had to take a carriage. Chen Yuan walked out of the house, raised his hand, adjusted his clothes, and got on the carriage. Sitting in the luxurious carriage, he kept demonstrating in his heart the matters that would be reported in the morning. In the past few days, he has participated in Shanghai County several times in a row. And it has already played a big role. There are already court commissioners who have gone to receive Jiangguo refugees. It is said that they are refugees, but who does not know that they are refugees, and the whole is a luxury fleet. Each is soft with gold and silver. Anyone who goes there will be able to get oil and water. Originally, only the local gatekeepers in Shanghai County could get the benefits. This time, Chen Yuan made a fuss and was directly accepted by the imperial court. This is just the first step, far from enough. It's just that things in the courtroom can't be rushed, and it must be done step by step. Outside the palace gate, a sparse number of dozens of court officials are going to court together. Chen Yuan himself is the consort, and the official worships the third-rank imperial envoy. This is noble, and even if he is from the third rank, he is a higher-ranking officer, far exceeding the top officials of the county governor. The concubine is also very early today. The past few days, the concubine has been very beautiful, and Shanghai County is going to have an earthquake this time. One by one, these people were either mocking or flattering. Chapter 63:01. Because the concubine can be a man, and even an official. Above the court, all the princes are very optimistic about this concubine, mainly because the princess is the sister of the present majesty, the sister of the same father and mother. With such an identity, Chen Yuan has the first aid. Everyone is serious. This is just a matter of the official's rank. Chen Yuan is very humble, but he keeps his secrets. He still has a big melon to explode today. Just wait. If this happened today, it would be choking them. The concubine, who is harmless to humans and animals on the surface, has murderous intentions in his heart. Stepping into the main hall, above the court, the princes have already taken their places. Even the always mysterious and unpredictable commander of Zhangxianlu came early. His appearance made many people puzzled. In the eyes of the courtiers, this is the guarantor of the imperial power and a close minister of His Majesty. Generally, he does not go to court. If anything happens, he will report it to the Tang Emperor as soon as possible. Today, he went to court early. Obviously something happened. How did he come? Chen Yuan lined up from the bottom of his heart, and when he looked at the great commander, there was hatred and fear in his eyes. The people in the court more or less have some grudges with Zhangxianlu. Because Zhangxianlu is not only a terrible force to maintain the cultivation world, but also has the right to supervise hundreds of officials. Even the concubine is afraid, not to mention other people. Once it is targeted by Zhangxianlu, it will be taken off the floor if it doesn't die. Old Yenge, this great commander went to court today, but because of Shanghai County? Among the civil servants, everyone was trembling. Old Yen Gu, who was headed by him, raised his brows and said sarcastically, "He does what he does." As for Shanhai County, it is the most important county town along the coast of the Tang dynasty. Kill the immortal guard. Yen Zhong, the figure in the power center of the Tang dynasty, the head of the 6 ministries, the first assistant of the cabinet, is the figure of the Tang dynasty under one person and more than 10 million people. Only he would not be afraid of Zhang Xianwei, because he is also a close minister of Emperor Tang, even closer than the Grand Commander of Zhangxianlu, so I don't worry about Zhang Xianwei throwing dirty water on him. With the Emperor's protection, it is enough to run rampant. Of course, he himself must have enough strength, not only the strength of an official, but also the strength of the family. The Yen family came from Changshui County, Mangshan County. Their ancestors came from Emperor Wuzong 600 years ago. Although they were military generals, the entire Yen family was transformed into a civil official family because of Yen Zhong's father. Officials are best at observing words and expressions. Seeing that Emperor Tang was a little unhappy, he winked and asked his concubine to fight, and brought up today's theme. This matter, yesterday he passed the anger with Tang Huang. One of the good things about the cabinet is that it can report directly to Emperor Tang. In fact, many things had already been approved by Emperor Tang or the cabinet in advance when they were reported to the early morning, but it was not just what they wanted to say. Because time is limited. After receiving the promise from the old man, the concubine Chen Yuan took a step forward, with a serious expression and a solemn tone. "Report to your majesty, Shanhai County is willing to accept Jianggua's refugees, many of whom are powerful people in Jianggua. These people not only carry gold and silver soft and armored, such an important matter, Shanhai County has concealed it for several months." Opposite? This word is very sensitive in the courtroom, because it involves not an individual, but a group, and that is something that will collectively lose their heads. After hearing the concubine's beating, Emperor Guangfu suddenly opened his eyes and looked straight at the concubine Chen Yuan, his own brother-in-law. "Strictly old, why have I never heard of Jianggua's affairs?" Emperor Tang turned his attention to Yen Zhong. It seems that he is questioning the poor governance of the country, but he is actually targeting the commander of Zhangxianwei. It's just that he can't directly target the big commander, and now it's time for Yen Zhong to solve his problems. "Go back to your majesty." Yen Zhong cupped his hands and said, "The matter of Jianggua has been following up since he got the information of Zhang Xianwei a year ago. I went to the Ministry of War to study, but this follow-up was suddenly interrupted half a year ago. The minister is in the capital, the place of his own, and he is really powerless. Please forgive me." After some words, Yen Zhong said nothing. First, he praised Zhang Xianwei and indicated their respective positions. One is to oversee the world, and the other is to govern the world. Chapter 63:02. One eye and one hand. Each performed their duties. When Zhang Xianwei had information, they did everything they were supposed to do, and they kept following up on Jianggua's affairs. And now the reason why there is no follow-up is because there is no information about Zhang Xianwei. However, Yen Zhong pleaded guilty to His Majesty. But smart people can see that this is all because of Zhang Xianwei's intelligence problem, and has nothing to do with Gulao. Don't wait for Tang Huang to speak. Civil and military officials have spoken out to persuade. Your Majesty, the old cabinet manages the cabinet and summarizes the affairs of the world. This failure of supervision is not under the control of the cabinet. Your Majesty, please enlighten me. His Majesty. A series of persuasion, but no one pointed directly at Zhang Xianwei. They are all smart people, and they know that even if Your Majesty commits the crime of Zhang Xianwei, he will not really give the Zhang Xianwei a pot. If you are offended severely, and you will be retaliated against in the future, it will be difficult. This kind of thing, Yen Gu has long expected. Some people are afraid, some people are not afraid. For example, the people who Zhang Xianwei offended. Among the 100 officials, a skinny old man with white hair walked out slowly, his hands tremblingly bowed. Although he had reached the age of obsession, the moment he opened his mouth, it was thunderous. Sir, death advice. Zhang Xianwei colluded with Jiang was remaining evildoers, hiding and not reporting, with ulterior motives. It was my Tang dynasty's injury. I ask your majesty to abolish the Zhangxianlu. A sentence filled the room with shock. Yan Zhong also took a deep breath and said sadly, You Wangye. The rest of the officials did not dare to answer. This sentence carries too much weight. Death remonstrance, that will really die, and it is still participating in the immortal slaying guard, and the great commander is still in the hall. Many people secretly went to see the great commander of Zhan Xianwei, wanting to see how the great would fight back. Outsiders think that Zhan Xianwei can only kill people, but they don't know that this great commander once used power to suppress the court. If it weren't for the fact that Emperor Tang had been leaning towards the cabinet in order to maintain the political situation, how could all the dukes dare to jump like this? Uncle Huang, why are you doing this? Tang Huang looked a little surprised. Not only the Emperor Guangfu, but the concubine was also stunned. He didn't expect things to escalate so quickly. There was no way. He had just become the concubine for 2 years, and he had very little experience with the court, so he couldn't see through the final plan of these old foxes. Especially the one on the dragon chair. Stir it, you can just stir it. The more chaotic the better. The Shanghai County will be turned upside down. The concubine's heart sank and watched the development of the situation. Lord Yu is the head of the Xuangue group. He has given advice to death, and the rest of the honorable people also know that this time they will be ruthless. After hesitating, they also gave advice, advocating the abolition of the immortal slaying tower. At this time, Yan Zhong, the chief assistant of the cabinet, was standing by, and no one helped. He was in charge of setting up the fire and left the rest. And the concubine Qin Yuan was just the one who set the fire. For a time, above the court, words encouraged. Emperor Guangfu frowned, but he didn't speak, but his eyes looked at the commander from time to time, but his heart was full of joy. Abolished the immortal slaying tower. He hadn't thought about it before. Some things could be tolerated, but what happened last night was unbearable. If he continued to endure like this, his good deeds would be ruined sooner or later. But the current Zhangxianlu is too big to fall. Although it has been cut several times, the supreme ruler of the Zhangxianlu has always been the Grand Commander, and this is an old minister who has been loyal to the late emperor. It's impossible to beat it all at once. What's more, balance. Seeing that the situation was almost over, Emperor Guangfu rubbed his eyebrows and said tiredly, Commander Wei, do you have anything to explain to me? Steps. After hearing this sentence, the lower officials were shocked, knowing that His Majesty was going to protect the immortal tower again. Now that we have found a step for Commander Wei, just say 2 beautiful words, take the initiative to plead guilty, and be punished for 1.5 years of salary, and it will be over. Then everything you just did was in vain. Yu Wang's eyes dazzled and he almost fell down. He had waited for this opportunity for many years. Wei Jiuxian gritted his teeth with hatred. Back then, he wanted to seek a chance for his eldest son to become an immortal because he privately divided the spirit mine in the fief, but was discovered by Zhan Xianwei, who killed his son on the spot, and the entire spirit mine was confiscated. How could he not hate it? He didn't dare to hate His Majesty, but he still had the courage to hate this eunuch, and he was very big. Your Majesty, I am the great Tang dynasty in the east, sitting on 1,000,000 miles of fertile soil and hundreds of millions of people, but I must not put the Tang dynasty into embarrassment because of a eunuch, otherwise the old man will have no face to see his ancestors. Emperor Guangfu's eyelids twitched, and his brows furrowed even deeper. This time, he said it was in his heart. In such a situation, there was no one to speak up in the court. They are all waiting for Emperor Tang's attitude. Alas! Emperor Guangfu sighed, stood up slowly, glanced over the hall, and said angrily, Wei Aiqing, this matter was caused by the killing of the immortal guard. Do you have an explanation? In the end, he aimed at Wei Jiuxian. This is also the same as the beginning of the calculation. Take the things of today for the handle of yesterday. Emperor Guangfu was also very helpless when he was the emperor, but for the sake of above the court, Wei Jiuxian finally raised his head after hearing Emperor Guangfu speak. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning everything. Then he turned his head to look at Emperor Guangfu and said in a serious tone, "I have nothing to explain, but I have to beat up your majesty. The matter of Mongshan County has already affected the capital, and the demon sect is raging in the east, and the 9 counties in the southeast have been affected. There are 10 rooms and 9 empty spaces, and there are no living people to see. This is a major event related to the Tang dynasty, not something that a small border country can compare to." As soon as this word comes out, shocked, 10 rooms and 9 empty spaces? The 9 southeastern counties? They have been living in the land of the capital, and the real situation of the outside world has only received some approvals. How can I not be surprised to hear Wei Jiuxian say that the 9 southeastern counties have become so serious that there is no living person in sight? The cabinet old Yan Zhong was the first to stand up and criticize angrily. "It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. There are tens of millions of entrances to the 9 counties in the southeast. How can there be 10 rooms and 9 empty spaces? The Tang dynasty has been in good weather in recent years, and there is no war or plague to follow. Food disaster? How could so many people die?" "Lord Yan." Wei Jiuxian looked at him and said coldly, "I said, it's the demon sect raging." This sentence directly refers to the Emperor Guangfu. Everyone in the hall knew that Emperor Guangfu had planned to establish Qiang sect as the state religion these years, and Qiang sect was a complete demonic sect. In the eyes of civil and military officials, Qiang sect has always been honest and has not done anything out of the ordinary in these years. But now I hear that the Qiang sect is doing something wrong, and the bald donkeys are tens of millions of people, and each of them can't stand. Chapter 6303. 6303 Chapter Guangfu Emperor, Li Miao. Impossible. I also received a memorial from the 9 southeast counties a few days ago. That's my disciple. The minister of the Ministry of Housing was full of surprise. The same is true for the Minister of Officials, who retorted, "Hundreds of officials are dispatched to the 9 southeastern counties every year, and they will return to Dizizi by the end of the year. If such a big thing happens, how can they hide it?" For a time, all the officials in the hall questioned. Wei Jiuxian smiled indifferently, and with a flick of his finger, a spark appeared, and he instantly turned into a figure. King of Desire. Everyone was surprised. A spark became the King of Desire, and the appearance was exactly the same. Immediately after several changes, it evolved into a number of high-ranking officers in the court. Everyone was amazed. All fake. After Wei Jiuxian finished speaking, he put away this small trick. The trick is to deceive civil and military officials, but it cannot deceive Zhan Xianwei. Since Qiangzong helped Emperor Guangfu, he discovered this matter. It was because a dish in the immortal slaying tower was killed and then reappeared. According to the investigation, we found out that the latter was a puppet. Because of this matter, he asked Tang Huang to question, but Tang Huang told him vaguely that if there is no land, there will be no loss of land, but if the land is lost, there will be no one. The meaning is obvious. For the sake of the Tang dynasty, the people will suffer again. A eunuch eats imperial food and must relieve his majesty's worries. This is a normal thing. But Wei Jiuxian couldn't do it. "Your Majesty, please see clearly." Wei Jiuxian bowed and saluted. Even if he loses this position today, he will let the affairs of the 9 southeastern counties come out. Because the witnesses are all there. No one can reverse the case. For a while, the silence in the hall made people hairy. Even Yu Wang, who hated Wei Jiuxian to his bones, stopped talking, because his personal grudge was far from Datong's foundation. If Datong didn't have the surname Li, he would not have the wealth he is today. Emperor Guangfu frowned, took several deep breaths, and said angrily in his heart, "Wei Jiuxian, I gave you a chance, I gave you a lot of chances. Why do you want me to go against me, even a dare to teach me to govern the world?" There was endless anger in his eyes. The roar in the depths of his heart was like the howling of a wild beast, and a black mist also emanated from his eyebrows. If I'm not strong, how can the Tang dynasty prosper? With a word of comfort in my heart, Emperor Guangfu's expression became much calmer. After all, this is the early morning, and he has to summarize today's affairs to make a decision. The things on the face should be good-looking and beautiful, and the private should be tight. I am so sad. Emperor Guangfu, Li Miao, clutched his chest, his eyes were complicated, and his tone was solemn. The events of 3 years ago seem to be vivid in my mind. Where did you all go back then? If the Qiang sect hadn't helped me, how could the Tang dynasty be restored? These words are really heartbreaking. Especially civil and military officials, they are really useless. At the beginning, there were 2 great heroes. One was the immortal slaying guard and the other was the Qiang sect. It's no wonder people are being scolded now. Of course, I would also like to thank Wei Aiqing and all the immortals in Xianzhanwei. Without them, I would not be able to get out of Taiyan City. Emperor Guangfu changed the subject and continued. Zhan Xianwei's supervision of Shanhai County has failed. As a result, no information was passed on to the cabinet even after the collapse of Jiang State. We decided to remove Wei Jiuxian from the position of commander and replace it with the protector of Nanshan. Wei Aiqing will take over the defense of Nanqing for the time being. Wei Jiuxian, who was in the hall, was not surprised. This was the price he paid for breaking the sky today. He had already said that this majesty would not do business at a loss. As for the matter in the 9 counties in the southeast, the Ministry of Punishment and Dali Temple will investigate together. As for the candidates for the inspection, Chen Yuan will take the lead and take Zhan Xianwei to the 9 counties to find out everything. The big things are picked up high and put down gently. No one knows that this Chen Yuan is the brother-in-law of Emperor Tang, and that is his own. What can I find out in the 9 counties? The light in Wei Jiuxian's eyes completely faded. Even Yan Zhong of the cabinet couldn't help frowning. He was very dissatisfied with this, not because of such a big incident in Zhejiuan, but because His Majesty was too partial to the Qiang sect. A demon sect in the realm of self-cultivation. If it wasn't for Xiao Xiao, who couldn't enter the hall because of the power of the dragon, how could it not be chilling to be so shielded by His Majesty? Retreat. But with the retreat, what else can they say? Wei Jiuxian closed his eyes slightly, took a deep breath, and walked out of the hall alone, with a lonely back. How much hatred there was in the past, I can't hate it at this moment. This is the heart of the princes of the court. Chen Yuan gritted his teeth with hatred. He hated Wei Jiuxian. If it weren't for the fact that the other party broke such a big thing, his appointment today would be the governor of Shanhai County. Now they are going to visit Mangshan County, which is the 9 counties in the southeast. I hate it. The meeting will disperse. Emperor Guangfu returned to the Hall of Mental Cultivation, but he could not raise his state of mind. Damn Wei Jiuxian. Emperor Guangfu could no longer remain calm. His eyes were full of black mist. Since he became a cultivator in the infant transformation realm, no one in this Tang dynasty dared to disobey him, but last night Wei Jiuxian dared to detain the immortal fate he let Qi Yangzong collect. How can he not hate? That is the immortal fate collected by Qi Yangzong after a busy year. Once he is refined, he can quickly be promoted to the late stage of Huaying. Immortal fate, that's a good thing. The reason why he broke through from ordinary Jindan to Huaying was because of the immortal fate refined by Qiang sect. He was promoted to Huaying in just a few months and swept the different kings. 3 years have passed, and outsiders can never imagine that he is now in the middle stage of infant transformation. At such a speed, the entire cultivation world cannot find a few. If it wasn't because Wei Jiuxian ruined his good deeds, he would have been able to impact Huaying great consummation now. The Emperor Guangfu, Li Miao, became angrier the more he thought about it. His teeth tickled with hatred, and he held the table with both hands, which also crackled. At this time, a cloud of mist drifted from the hall and turned into a figure in white. Isn't that holding back your anger? The visitor's tone was calm, and he didn't care that the 95 Lord was angry. And Li Miao's approach is also surprising, he replied respectfully. It's me who messed up and disappointed the immortal master. It's only 1 year's fate. If you let it go, you can let Qiang sect go to the 36 states in the north to collect the fate. I have blocked the secret in that place. As long as there are enough people, I can collect it for you in half a year. Reaching the perfect fairy fate of Huaying. The white-clothed immortal master's tone was indifferent. Emperor Guangfu was a little hesitant, and said with a moving expression, "The 9 southeastern counties have been exposed, these 36 prefectures? How? Soft-hearted?" The immortal master looked like a light cloud, and he floated forward, patted Li Miao's shoulder, and comforted. "If you achieve a major event, you must be ruthless. What you have now is the greatest opportunity in the entire cultivation world. The entire cultivation world will remember your name, not this little Tang." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.